Can you hear me? Okay, cool.
We are live.
Nice.
There
Yeah,
we go.
we'll give it that minute to let people trickle in. So I know
Drift
Chance
by.
is definitely going to be in this one.
That depends. Is Chance going to be getting in when it's late?
No, he
he
told me to
will.
start sending it, and now that we have Jazz on, I know he wanted to. He had told me, he was like, if y'all get Jazz on.
You cut out.
I said, Chance told me to start letting him know ahead of time before we go live because he always catches at the end. And then I told him that we had John on, so he was like, oh yeah, definitely hopping in. Oh my God, what the heck?
I think
Chill.
there should be more like I like that y'all do a show like this. I don't think there's enough like kind of concise but targeted discussion kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. But yeah, I like that y'all do this, or even had the idea to do it really amongst yourselves. It's good.
The one of the goals was trying to like not make everything just strictly about like when we first started, it was like really it almost went on as like it was almost like an interview process, but now like we're getting to the point to where we also get into like actual topics and not just the typical why'd you do this, how'd you do that kind of thing.
Player, like history as a player, kind of
yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, we wanted to be more of like a platform for people to just display more of their personality and to like have it more of like a casual thing where you can like hang out, but we also touch on any serious topics outside of the FGC and inside of the FGC. So
Try to.
Yeah, definitely. With the last episode we did was actually the first time we didn't have a guest, and we just brought Lumen on with us, and it was really just talking about everything going on.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It's wherever the discussion wants to go. But speaking of it, Dylan, go ahead and intro us in. What do we got? Who we got?
So we got Croissant Cast Ep.7. We took a little break, had things going on. My name's Dylan Killen. I am joined by my co-host. Lack of one that's still asleep right now. So we got Lumen filling in, but Go ahead and tell them what's up.
Yo, we got that new merch. Croissants on T-shirts. Got the new Fuji.
And that's when you were supposed to say, I'm Lulu Meister.
Look, I'm excited about these, man. I'm excited about these shirts. I like the one. Look, shush, let me be excited. Anyway,
this whole clothing line not already. About this show.
Yeah, right. My name's Lumen, aka Lulu. I'm one of the owners, CEO of Crescent Esports. I'm here because it fell asleep and stays asleep. But
join out there.
Exactly. Next to me is the lovely DJ in the very
I got
awesome.
the soft pink Katakana Crescent Esports t-shirt,
and I got the purple vaporwave.
Yeah, show off that one real quick because no one's seen that yet.
This one is absolutely fresh. Love it. Oh, I don't know if I'm standing up enough. Whatever. And today we are extremely lucky because we are joined by the New Orleans-born GOL prodigal son, now an overall FGC legend, doing his thing in Japan, running things in the anime games. We got Majin Obama with us today.
Minor correction. I was born in Shreveport, actually. But you know what? But
the Joe Sean territory.
Yeah, unfortunately, right? The shirts. Their love. I'm wearing a lounge shirt I got from Kmart last time I was in.
Yo.
But what the hell, man? It's Monday morning. Let's go. It's a party. What's up, y'all? Yeah, I've been seeing what y'all been doing for a while now. Glad, happy y'all invited me to be on your show and we can talk about some shit for a while.
Yeah, man.
I'm always talk shop.
You want to give a little quick thing, like a little bit about what you've been doing lately?
Look, man, I'm not very pretentious. I'm not. So, like, a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, I'm a professional commentator, or I'm a professional this or that. I'm going to be honest with you, dude. I just like fighting games, dude. I'm literally just a dude who likes fighting games. And, I turn the stream. I do a lot of shit, man. I'll put it that way. But I'm out here in Japan, making it work, doing, I guess I could tell you, I stream and I do production work for 10-0. and I also work for Team Liquid as a player manager for the players that they have signed out here.
For the FGC side.
Yeah, for fighting game players, yeah. And
that is
that's
a nasty roster you got.
aka Jazz, aka a lot of names. Majin Obama is the most recent one, but unfortunately, that's probably the one that most people know me by. I'll say that.
Nice.
So, as you corrected me, I say New Orleans. I have it because we all pretty much rep New Orleans overall when we are out and about. But
it's not you, man. Because look, I thought I was born in New Orleans for half my fucking life. Then my mom
They told you one day.
My mom was like, "Nah, we happened to be in Shreveport at the time." I was like, "What the fuck?"
Like,
I'm running around telling people wrong information and shit.
She gave you a fake birth certificate the whole time?
Yeah, and it's fucking Shreveport, man. You know, half those dudes are Cowboys fans. Fuck, they fuck Shreveport, man. Northern Louisiana is so weird. My dad's whole family is from North Louisiana, right? So it's just such a weird fucking place. Like I like going there sometimes. In fact, my parents moved up there now. So actually, when I fly in, a lot of times I go into Alexandria. I fly into Alexandria Airport, and then we'll drive down if we go to New Orleans. But like, it's like half cowboy country, half Saints country. It's the weirdest shit on earth, bro. It's this weird nexus of the South. I don't like it.
I'm not big on traveling out to Shreveport or like the Alexandria area unless I have to. But like, I am about the drive to Lafayette sometimes.
Yeah, Lafayette.
I don't mind going to Lafayette.
I like the you know what is actually can be kind of like beautiful or pretty is like the riverbank areas. So I have my dad actually. So my dad's family is from North Louisiana, right?
Mhm.
So when I was in high school, he bought this old plantation where in North Louisiana. Okay, we end up tracing the lineage of the property back. It used to belong to my family. We lost it, and then he bought it back again. It's this so we fixed it up over a few years, and it's right off of the riverbank. And so we spent it like in summers we'll go like camping there and shit like that. That kind of area is really pretty, I think. If you like countryside or going like fishing, hunting, or like boating or four-wheeling, that kind of shit, it's tight. But the day-to-day, man, it's like that's just super country. It's all right though. It's not all bad.
Well, I think it was like 2 years ago at Slam, we had a couple people come out from like Alabama, Mississippi, and stuff like that. I remember some of them were like asking, they were like, "Oh, where can I go to New Orleans for like, Cajun food or Creole food?" And I was like, "You down to take that drive to Laffy?" Because like, honestly, like people sleep on it, but like the food, when you actually want like actual Cajun food, I'm not gonna point you in the direction of some tourist trap ass restaurant that has no fucking flavor seasoning to it. Like you might as well take the drive and enjoy the food at some hole in the wall in Lafayette or out in that area in general for the most part.
I don't think people sleep on like central Louisiana for free. I don't think people sleep on Laffy. I think people know, right?
When people know, I'm talking about people that aren't from here. Like when they come from out of state, they assume where at New Orleans am I going to get this food? And it's like I've been a server and bartender at a lot of these Cajun New Orleans restaurants, and it's trash. You don't want that. Like
corporate, super like vanilla, right?
Yeah.
A lot of like some of them even got bought out by. Dude, we're getting off topic here, but yeah.
This is just an important topic. I need to know this because I was thinking the same thing.
Some of those older restaurants, they definitely got bought out by like other like corporations or something like they're very corporate, right? Especially like French Quarter is almost completely corporate now. And like almost like none of that shit is real. You know what I mean?
And a lot of that shit comes from Cisco.
Yeah, that too.
But so born and raised in Shreveport, Ben, you were a huge thriller out in out in the New Orleans, Louisiana FGC, and you a while back took the jump and moved down to Japan. You've been living that beautiful, beautiful lifestyle out there. What played part in making that decision?
Real simple answer, dude. Not that much, to be honest. So I went to the big thing with me was I started So I used to live in Slidell for a long time, right? But you know, I used to live in New Orleans, then we moved out to Slidell. But all my family still lives in New Orleans and stuff, right? So when it came time for like my last years of high school, I guess, you know, up until that point, I had always had really, really strong, not one-off experiences, but repeated, consistent experiences with fighting games. So, just for an example, I'm sure everyone has a story like this. I had to have been like 8 years old, and my big cousin's like 13 or 14, right? So we go to my grandma's house for one weekend, and it's just like me and my cousins. And he had a Sega Genesis and Street Fighter 2. And what he did to me, I think scarred me in the worst way possible, was he got my little girl cousin and he told her how to do the special moves, but he wouldn't tell me. So I just kept getting my ass beat. The whole like, it was the worst shit on earth.
Wow.
And the fucked up part was I almost hold it against him till this day. The best part was so there was another summer, like a few years after that, where I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, right? He comes to my house to spend the summer, and I had Alpha 2. We had Alpha 2 in Madden 2001, and every night for an entire summer was just war. We would just go at it. And I got to the point where I would give him the business in Alpha 2. And, you know, like through the years, I just had these consistent experiences with those kinds of games up until around like late high school, where I was like, the game that I was probably most infatuated with when I was in high school randomly was Alpha 3 and Marvel 2. I cannot tell you why. Marvel 2 is pretty, like, so I eventually just started trying to learn those games kind of by myself. You know, I would play some other stuff on the side too, but when it came to fighting games, that one really kind of drew me in. It started getting me to watch like matches and stuff like that. You know, I had experience playing like Tekken 3, Street Fighter 3 New Gen, not even like Third Strike, New Gen, at my local like bowling alley and shit. But when I went to Xavier, when I went to college in the city, you know, was staying on campus and stuff, the thing that got me really, really to start taking it a little bit more seriously was as simple as in the commons area of my dormitory, they had a GameCube and a PS2. We would play, and they had Tekken 5 DR, Smash Brothers, GGXX, CVS2, Third Strike, all like the works, right? So they would just have them on rotation, and it was just sit down, stay, and you know, play until you lose. So I was like, I just want to sit down, and I won't want anybody to fuck with me. So I got to the point where I was beating everybody in the dormitories.
I'm running instead of.
So then the natural progression there is you're like, okay, what about beyond the dormitory or whatever, right? That's when I started going to Fun Arcade, and that was like 2006, 7, around that area.
That was the one down there by Bonnable, huh?
Yeah, Marble 2 and Learning Third Strike in particular. Played what they had. Yeah, I'd say focusing on those games in particular. That's where I met a lot of people at first. Fun Arcade, between Fun Arcade, Dibs, a couple other spots. Started to meet with a lot of the local people. Shit, Gameware in Baton Rouge. I don't know if any of y'all remember that.
Yeah.
It used to be a thing.
It's still there. It's just not what it was.
Yeah. The whole thing, I guess, while I was a pre-med student at Xavier, but I really wanted to travel overseas. I really wanted to live overseas because I felt like their pre-med program, it's a grind, man. When you get in there, you just nonstop the whole time. I never took a break in college, so I was like, I really want to travel before I go do something else. So I was like, go to Japan for a couple of years, you know, get to play games or whatever. And one thing led to another, man. I got out here originally just to where was the decision making factor? It's real fucking simple, dude. I wanted to go play in the arcades, and I wanted to just come live out here, study language for a little bit. And shit, that was really it, man. I remember I really just kind of got on a plane. I was gonna stay for 3 months and then go to Evo after, but ended up getting a job, pretty shitty job, but you know, you take it. And I can't really give you. It's not like there's a roadmap to this kind of stuff, right? it really is just like one thing led to another, and just like now I'm doing this shit, you know.
But I mean, it seems like it was all basically fueled by your passion at the time.
To
It
beat
just
his
felt
little
right.
cousin.
Was it fueled by that? Maybe, but the realist. So like, let's be real here. Passion does not, like, you can't build a house on passion. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
you need practicality, but you also need. I think if that's gonna be your fuel, you also need a lot of luck. And fortunately for me, I got really lucky.
Right.
Shit, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for, like, you know, shit. I'm the only reason why I'm here is pretty much on the backs of others, to be honest with you. And maybe a lot of people I think have similar experiences, but that's what it was for me, man. It's this new thing kind of popped up right at the right time. I was doing in the right place at the right time, doing the quote unquote right thing at the right time, and just one thing led to another, man. It's a shitty answer. I can't really give you a specific reason why certain things hit and why certain things didn't, but it just worked out, you know.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there was there a moment for you that was like a turning point that you're like, this is what I want to do?
I don't know if there was a single moment, but there was like a year, I guess, where I was getting. There was, I suppose, a year, like a streak of events where they asked me to do work, do commentary or to do this.
Right.
Because when it starts out, like, dude, I quote unquote started out. I just went to Mikado and I was like, "Hey, do y'all want to run some events?" And they're like, "Yeah." Like, and that was it. But like,
Simple
that's
enough.
all I was doing was just, I was like, I want to just run some stuff that I want to see, as a player.
Yeah.
So when you start doing it at that level, you're not thinking, years in advance, or you're not thinking about some other shit, right? You're not thinking about it becoming bigger than that. But then someone then offers you money to do this, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Get paid to do this. Then you get another offer, and then you get more, whatever, for gigs, and all of a sudden you're like, well, shit, I'm making almost as much money doing this as I am doing this bullshit ass job, Then you're like, I'll give it a try. And then just one thing leads to another. So, like, was there one turning point? No, but there was like a year streak, maybe around like 2016, maybe, for me, where it started to become financially viable. I'll put it that way. It became kind of stable, I would say, for me to try to pursue whatever it is I'm pursuing out here.
Do you think that so, like, in that the older period of gaming, esports, whether it was like FGC or whatever scene, there was a lot of passion projects that kind of came to fruition. You had that year that was significant for you. A lot of people have a similar story. Like, do you feel like that's something that gets lost, or that has been lost now? I think from,
what do you
and
mean?
I asked this,
Passion-based stuff?
kind of, because like, okay, just to kind of where I'm coming from with this, like, when we made Crescent, it was also a passion-based thing, and myself and Dylan have noticed a lot of others, not just esports organizations, but people who are like are trying to emulate that passion-based thing, but they're really just doing it for money. Like, it's a whole different. It feels like it's a whole different environment now versus back then.
Yeah, what I would say is I kind of get what you're saying. So. But the thing is, man, even with some of them, I'm not sure necessarily that it's for money. Some might be, but some, I honestly, man, I think some are just for attention. Some are for attention, some are for money, whatever it is. But there's definitely, oh, okay, I know how to answer this. So what I'll say is, there are definitely people now. There's definitely always been people who will do certain things or try to, whether it's compete in certain games or say or do certain things for attention or notoriety, right?
Yeah.
I definitely think that there are people and groups of people now who do things in the community that are trying to pursue something other than, like, love of the game or something like that. Obviously. There's definitely there's definitely ulterior motives for sure. Like I said, whether it's money, whether it's attention or notoriety or something like that, clout, whatever. There's definitely people in it that are not really like about the community or about the games now. That's the thing. Yeah, for sure.
How is it in Japan versus here, as far as the community is concerned?
That level of combo it's probably difficult for me to perceive, but it's so different here, man, because here it's like you have, I think here the bigger divide is between like the pro player and the non-pro player, because they actually have
license system and everything.
Exactly. So like
Oh,
legality,
they have a. Oh
There's
wow,
like
they
an
do.
esports pro player, license. There's like a whole
License.
board, right? And then all this,
Oh
so
shit.
that I don't like comparing like the Western community.
Yeah. Okay.
So like grassroots open tournaments are kind of would be a different thing, because like you can't win prize money, right, unless you're one of the approved.
Yeah, exactly. So DJ already knows. Yeah. So the structure is so different, and traditionally too, you got to remember, like overseas tournaments for maybe like a 10 to 15 year head start, they were playing for money, right? But for here, for a long time, you could, under their interpretation of the law, players couldn't play for money like that. So that influenced, I think, so on a player level, that influenced like character picks and the way certain game trajectories went. But then on like the macro level, you had people who were playing to be the best, specific, and like that's it, right? Playing to win, be the best, or whatever like that. And just because they loved the game, or whatever, it wasn't about trying to win $20, $60 or whatever. It was about, I like this game, I just want to play it, I want to show it off, I want to share it. That's a very rose-tinted glasses way of looking at it, of course, but that's kind of a nuance there that I think maybe people who don't know about that era will kind of escape them, because now, like DJ said, there's a licensor system. So there's players based on certain developers have an agreement with this licensing team now, to where their players can become exempt from certain Japanese legal guidelines that will limit the amount of prize money that they can receive. And it's based not only on game. Street Fighter V, I think, has the most for fighting games, and then it's like Street Fighter V, they have some BB tags, some Tekken, but I would say it's a separate conversation. I don't think that same question or that same idea doesn't translate one-to-one, I think, from Western.
Well, they still kind of have issues like that, because isn't that part of the thing that last year Tokyo Game Show, when like Momochi was stressing that, about how they get to pick what isn't. Momochi doesn't like how they themselves are picking what actually counts as an esport and what can you actually get away with and stuff like that.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. There's definitely issues with it. There's definitely problems, especially like I shot a video where I pretty much broke down the whole saga, and Momochi was kind of at the heart of that. But for clarity, he eventually he got his license recently, right? He eventually got it. He eventually subscribed to the system. There's definitely issues around that, and I would say if you were going to try to push this question, what I would talk about is this just the direction I would go with it. Is one thing that I kind of regret about all this is when Street Fighter 4 got really big towards the tail end of AE 2012 and around Ultra, and into Street Fighter 5, where you saw this this esports organization, this pro player boom, right? A lot of the players that in their player history used to play a variety of games. They used to be fighting game players.
Yeah.
Because you take on this role as a professional or whatever, which is a big deal here in Japan, being seen as a professional playing your games like that, that's a really big deal here. It just in terms socially, I can't articulate it that well, but it's important to be recognized by society here as like, oh, you're not just some game nerd, going to the arcade. This is a professional. There's a nuance there.
Yeah.
A lot of the players that used to play games, and a variety of games too, multi-game players. People like Tokido. There's a variety of them.
Yeah.
Those players,
Mhm.
because they now took on this pro position and they're now getting money for it, consistent, like, in a lot of cases, salaries or paid appearance fees, things like that. The games naturally take on a different role for them. It just becomes different, right? So for that reason, a lot of them got together beforehand and they were like, we're only going to play SF5. We're only going to commit to SF5 because SF5 for them, they think is the only way to really drive this thing forward, right? It has to go through Street Fighter, I guess is what they think. Maybe there's some truth to that. I'm not completely sold. Maybe there's some truth to that, but it's something that I think is kind of unfortunate about the state of the games. Because that was something that used to be really hype, man, was seeing players from different games go at it. And, God bless the ones that still do like that, know?
I remember Daigo dipped into Marvel 3 and Tokido was really good. And yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that plays into that.
I'm saying you can go outside Capcom, man. Tokido was in KOF 13.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Just like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he still plays Tekken, but I miss that a little bit. And so to answer his question about like things being passion driven versus something else, it doesn't translate 1-to-1, I think, between the communities like that. But that's a tangential kind of discussion that I see here, I think, especially over the past like year or two.
Has that expanded to the other roles of like TOs and event creators and stuff like that?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Like, I mean, shit. I'll put it this way: as if you start out running events, and then these like whatever company or this thing pays you to run events, all of a sudden you're looking at the ones that you were doing for free before, and you're like, well, shit, am I as motivated to do this anymore? It's kind of that same thing, That's one reason why I'm thinking right now, especially during COVID, right? Let's say post-COVID, and I think this could definitely be a thing. Post-COVID, let's say events come back, right? 2022 or whatever, events come back. There were a lot of, especially in North America, there are a lot of moving parts that create your favorite events, okay? It's not just about, like just for an example, right? CEO. You see Jabali, you hear him talk all the fucking time. Too much, like you get it, right?
Yeah.
But CEO is not just Jabali. You get that, right? It's Jabali is the face, is the owner, face, whatever. But there's at least like 2 or 3 very, very important companies that help make up that event. At least, and I'm being very conservative.
Right.
Those events lower the cost of running events for them even to be able to even put that on. So what I'm thinking for our ecosystem is, I don't think it's as simple as we come back and we're running events. Hey, everything's fine, baby. This is gonna be a breeze. It's not gonna be that simple. I think, because I think some of those smaller companies that help make those big events happen, I think some of those guys might be in trouble right now. So what's been going through my head is, if you're a pro, quote unquote pro player, and you've been receiving salary to play or whatever, you're getting money to play these games. What if we have to take a step back when we come back, and we can't offer a big prize pool, or maybe this event that used to be really big, maybe it's not going to be as big as this year. Maybe if you can't offer that same level of reward for those players, are they still as motivated to push themselves in those games as they were before when they were getting? That's just a question I have, because especially some of these guys are getting older, man. They got families and stuff now, and it's depending on them being able to, be in some cases breadwinners with salary, tournament winning, whatever. And I'm thinking, like, if you remove that, are these guys still going to play? I don't think so. Personally, maybe I'm pessimistic, but it's just a concern I have right now.
This goes back to the conversation we were having, where you were saying like how motivation or that passion isn't the driver. You have to. We're probably going to run into a lull after COVID where events are going to have to be like, maybe they might be half size.
Yeah,
they're not.
It's just like the gym, right? You can't just walk back in there and throw 405 on bench. You can't just do that. You got to build yourself back up to that. Unless you're Scott Steiner or some shit. It's You can't just throw, I don't care how cockstrong you are, right? You can't just walk back into the gym after a year lull and just throw 600 on the squat rack and just go all the way down to the floor. It doesn't work that way. You got to build back up towards that. And that was something that was, man, when you look at Evo entrant numbers, and I don't like, I'm kind of torn, man. I don't like to over invest in Evo stuff, but honestly, you cannot overstate how important Evo is for our ecosystem, right?
True.
I agree.
When you were numbers, you saw, okay, 2016 is the Street Fighter V release year. Every year up until then, it was building up to this 9,800 registered competitor year, right? The second Street Fighter V year obviously drops down because 5,000 entrants down to like 2,500 or whatever. A lot of people didn't come back or whatever. But 2017, 2018, 2019, it was building back up towards that without the benefit of a new major Street Fighter release. That to me is like significant growth. That's not just showing growth that's not just showing growth for like one game either. That's showing that the other games are growing. The other games are growing and that the event was growing. But now I'm thinking like, man, you can't just like 2022 Evo happens, right? I don't think it's gonna that momentum will have stopped, and I don't know how long it's gonna take for us to get it back. Because honestly, man, a lot of 2019 was looking really good, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like
a variety of numbers, and I just don't think it's gonna be as simple as, oh, offline's back, we're good. I don't think you can't just jump into it like that.
Well, I haven't looked updates in a while, but I mean, last time I checked, technically CEO 2020 is not 100% canceled yet, right?
No, it's not. It's rescheduled.
So,
how
do you feel about that now? I know he put it for the mid-December, but then shit started getting bad again. But he still never came out and said, "Okay, looks like this 100% isn't going to be happening." So, how do you feel about the possibility of CEO 2020 still?
I mean, it's not possible. It's obviously not possible.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, there is no TO of a major event, no rationally thinking TO right now is like, hey, let me throw an event, no, dude, nobody's trying to go to that shit. There's there's a TO that wants to throw an event this year because they know, I mean, that shit's a fucking train wreck, obviously, So for him to still be having scheduled CEO in December, that should tell you something. He's obviously forced to.
See, I thought it would be the opposite. I thought that he when I looked at it, I was like, okay, Jabali's trying to be like the hero to the community right now. So I was thinking maybe he was going to do everything he could to make the event happen, and the only way it wasn't going to happen is unless the state of Florida themselves were like, no. But I was thinking that he wanted it to happen and he was pushing for it to be the hero for everybody. But if you, so that's why I'm curious that you said that.
I give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think that's why. The thing is this: when you reserve venues like that, there's a clause to where you can't cancel like that. If you cancel, you have to hold a major cost on your end, and it's very high. But if the state dictates that you cannot run the event, you no longer have to pay that. You're no longer liable for that. You understand? So yeah, if you're talking about a major venue like that, you pay and you have the contract signed to reserve it for this weekend or whatever, and then you just cancel it the week before. You think you have to pay. You have to pay for that, right? There's force majeure.
Well, I thought you didn't have to right now because of COVID. I figured that.
Because the government shut it down. That's the loophole there. Mm-hmm. That's the rule. If the state or if the government shuts it down, you, the person who reserved it, are not liable to pay that cost. That's why. So the way this is working, I haven't talked to Jabali about this, but this is just my guess, just off of seeing other people. It's been happening all year, not even just in North America, mind you. The reason why I'm going to say he's still doing it in December is because the hotel that he's doing it at, they said, you know what, we won't make you pay for the cost of, the government shut us down this time. We're going to reschedule it in December with your current contract, and we'll see what happens then. He's being forced to. No TO wants to run an event this year. No sane thinking TO is trying to run an event in the midst of a pandemic. Like, my thing is, dude, even if he holds that shit, who's going to that shit? You know, like nobody. He knows that. I know that. Every TO in the world fucking knows that right now.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to think. You have to give people the benefit of the doubt a little bit. There's no way he's that irrational to try to want to do that right now. You know, especially of all places in fucking Florida. Dude, get the fuck out of Florida. Hell no, I ain't going there.
True.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I was
'Cause
excited for it
I
to be
mean,
back in Orlando this year.
yeah, I mean, because we were talking about it, and if it actually does happen, and things aren't 100% terrible, like all of us planned on going.
There's no way,
outdoors,
dude.
yeah.
There's no way.
Like, there's no way. You can't look at this. It's what, August? There's no way. Come on, man. Like, it's not happening.
People shouldn't even like
Yeah.
going back to school
So you
yet.
have
Yeah,
to-
it's still happening.
So you have
It's
to
like,
think,
talking about
if
an
he's
event,
still
like-
committed to doing that, there has to be something forcing him to do that. You know, it's obviously, to me, it's the hotel venue agreement. They were probably like, you know, we'll waive your
yeah.
we'll waive the fee right now if you reschedule for December, and we'll see what happens then. You know, if the government shuts it down in December, then he's probably off the hook. He doesn't have to pay anything or anything like that. That's
So then what?
most likely the case, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's my reason. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think there's any way he's trying to run an event this year.
And I mean, and you've seen it happen to other people. I mean, like, I'm assuming a big part of Michigan Masters no longer existing now is because of that same reason, like having to come up with that money. And
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's just running. That's a part of running events at venues like that. When you have to, that's one reason why, you know, they always say, like, read the contract, and then they hand you like 20 pages. You're like, I'm not reading this shit. Fuck that. No, dude, you got to read this shit. Like, force majeure clauses and stuff like that. That's important. And you can see why this year. You know.
Yeah,
So what options do you? Oh, go ahead, DJ.
I was just gonna say, yeah, it's been really crazy just to see, like, literally just leave the wind in everybody's sails and across the board in FGC has just been completely taken away. Like, what you're saying about, like, momentum, like, I wonder how, like, things are eventually going to be like, to ascend back up to the point where we were building it towards before. And, like, I know we were talking about event makers and like tournaments and stuff like that, but, like, I feel like I'm just now starting to understand how much it's affected, like, the fighting game companies themselves too.
Yeah.
Where we saw all the announcements and stuff, or, like, you know, what they may have had planned for this year, and then, like, what as in actuality is what the result of what COVID has done as well.
So that's the thing. Everything is connected. It's not necessarily that you focus an entire conversation on one aspect of, like, I guess, like, the genre's fandom or, like, the competitive side, but they are
Right.
loosely connected to each other, right? So when you talk about the development side and you talk about like the makers and stuff like that, especially put through the lens of 2020, you know, of this year, events sell the fuck out of these games, dude. It's not even close anymore.
Mhm.
You can't even begin to deny that. Events carry the fuck out of these games. It's not even close. So now I'm wondering, you know, obviously development cycles and development schedules have been affected by this, right? You can tell that just off the announcements that you've seen in the past 2 weeks. It's very obvious. But now I guess what I'm thinking about is also, like, what about the future beyond that? How much did this year, and I don't want to be a doomer. I don't want to get on here and just be like negative Nancy the whole time. But you have to, like, my thing is recently I'm, like, super concerned about. So it's one thing for me to be like, I'm concerned about the competitive community, right?
Mhm.
It's another thing for me to be, I'm concerned about people that like fighting games. I'm concerned about the genre of games. I'm concerned about the genre of fighting games right now, because I don't think our ecosystem, it wasn't the best, but it wasn't doing too poorly. It was trending upwards. You know, it was doing better. But that was so easily destroyed in 8 months. I would not have felt, I didn't feel the way I feel right now 8 months ago, you know? And I'm wondering, how much does 2020 and what's happened with these games, our scenes, the way it's affected developers, how much does that affect the future trajectory of not a fighting game, not Street Fighter, not this. I'm talking about that kind of game. You have to understand, like, for a lot of the companies that make games now, they're not run by creatives, right? So my whole thing is, you have to put yourself in the shoes. Fighting game developers have one of the that's an awful job, dude. Could you imagine having to answer some of these Goombas on Twitter like that? No, I'm being serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's 100%.
This shit all the time. You ever listen to people that play fighting games? Dude, they have no idea what they're talking about. I think you have to be critical of the devs because they do a lot of stupid shit too, man.
Yeah.
But they also have really.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't know, I can't remember exactly like who tweeted it, but I remember seeing this and I agreed with it. It's like we possibly could have been like the worst genre in terms of being prepared for like this environment that we're in now, for like having to stay home and play online only, and it's like
especially,
a lot of that falls on the developers.
Right now is doing very well in a lot of categories.
Yeah,
literally every genre of game. Shooters killing that shit.
Yeah, like, you know, it's a time where everybody's at home and Twitch, like, you know, hours of Twitch watch are just skyrocketing, and like now we can't even really have competitions and things.
The only genre of game that is doing worse in COVID is fighting games. That's the only genre. That's crazy.
Well, FPS to a sense on actual competitive play, like for the Call of Duty League, you know, obviously now you're learning that they chose a terrible year, not only because it's arguably the worst Call of Duty to release on a competitive level and ever, but this was the year that they chose, you know, for everybody to throw in $25 million to buy a franchise spot. So the first argument was it was a terrible year to do the first launch of a full-on league due to the game. But now, like, so only four events got played on LAN because it was the homestead kind of thing, like Overwatch League does. Yeah. Every 2 weeks, you got your Chicago event for the Huntsman, your Atlanta event for FaZe. And, like, the online changed the whole pace of the game. So people, like, you know, veteran pros got benched because the game plays different online. Players have retired because of how bad the game is online. And now, for the first time in history, you know, they got Call of Duty champs coming up for these 12 teams. And the first place is $4 million this year just for first place. And the pro players are like, you got us playing online when we're all seeing orange boxes and teleporting, and when we're having issues and getting DQ'd for it and not being able to replay rounds that obviously fuck up because of the game was bad online, and we're about to play this online for $4 million. Like, are you kidding me? So, like, the game, like, the genres overall might be doing pretty well because it's easy to get it online and play a shooter. You know, Call of Duty's got Warzone, which they're making a bunch of money off of that. But, like, I don't think there's really any professional esport or, like, game scene that is doing well in this online only franchise, like, kind of system we got right now.
Yeah, but they can at least play their game online.
Talk about, like, that might be true when you talk about, like, maybe some competitive circuits, but overall, nah, man. Especially, like, shooters and MOBA specifically are killing it. Viewership out the ass. Like, it's better than it's ever been. Viewership, ad revenue from viewership. The content, it's doing super well for pretty much every category except fighting games. On micro level, I'm sure, you know, like, especially you talking about Call of Duty League. Yeah, I mean, imagine you invested $25 million in a franchise for that kind of thing, and then this shit happens, you know? I'm sure those companies could burn. Maybe some of them never put a dime in the games again, you know, and that's really sad. That sucks. But overall, like, macro level, everybody's eating except fighting game players. Except fighting games.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not even an argument that we have it the absolute worst, but I mean, it's because of how bad our netcodes are known for. Which actually, so that was actually leading to some. Do you think the culture with Japanese devs, like, is that changing now? Do you see any change happening? Do you think this is like COVID is going to actually change their mindsets? Because, like, for the round table, it's like, you know, they completely dodged netcode in every way, shape and form they could. It's like they didn't even go to the round table, like, prepared to talk about that, it seemed like, or even address it.
I think one thing too is netcode is, I guess, kind of a sexy conversation to have about this when it's considered, when you talk about, like, where fighting games are, how poverty they are. It's very easy right now, especially because, you know, I'm sure y'all watch every Maximilian and Sajam video. They can't stop talking about it, right?
Yeah.
No doubt it is a very important puzzle piece there. No doubt. But there's a lot of other reasons why our shit is perceived as poverty too. It's not just netcode. Netcode's a big one, especially because it connects to content, it connects to competition. There's a lot of pieces that it connects there, right? It is an integral part, but there's other reasons too. So with the roundtable, right? Here's the thing, man. It sounds like I'm defending them. I'm not. It's more just like a perspective thing. You have to understand that for JP company, especially JP companies, but for game devs especially now, especially because of the way they're run and the way they're managed, for those guys to even be able to sit down and have that discussion with each other live is insane. You have no idea how many hoops they had to jump through. First of all, the fact that they even had the idea to do that. Second, the fact that it actually happened. Third, the fact that you had competitors getting together and say, yeah, let's all show our stuff together. That is not common, especially in JP business culture. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. It's a two-way street. Because as a player, I feel the same way as you do, right? Where I'm like, how, especially this year, in the context of this year, how can you guys sit in a room as adults and not be willing to take ownership of your failure? Because elephant in the room, dude. These games right now are fucking, not doing very well. And it's because of, and some of that is because the devs have failed you, straight up. We can all be real here. I don't think anybody denies that. And for me as a player, it's frustrating to see them not willing to face that, not willing to admit that. Okay? But I think it's also an unrealistic expectation when you realize how corporate and how micromanaged some of these companies are, for them to sit together with their competitors and just literally lay out all their weaknesses on the table.
Yeah.
Dude, is Coca-Cola going to have, are Coca-Cola and Pepsi going to have a meeting where they're like, you know what? Our shit does have too much sugar. Hey, you know what?
You're right. We're sorry. Oh, my God.
You're right.
That doesn't happen in business. That doesn't. And while it'd be cool, why you would like to see that frankness and that honesty, right? The truth is, when it gets to the level of even in some cases, billion-dollar companies, they're not. Their leadership is not going to let them do that. Yeah. They're not going to.
I guess they wouldn't have to frame it in a negative way where they're like, "Yeah, we fucked up," or like say that, "Yeah, we apologize for this," or like they could just be like, "We hear that your increased demand for this," or like we hear y'all's wants, and
I would
we are working we are working to improve the netcode for our future titles and whatever we have planned. Like, just say that or something. But they kind of just shied away from it in general, I guess.
I'm not saying I'm like you. I think it's inappropriate to not even bring it up. But I think on the other end, I think a lot of people had the expectation like
it was also just like at a time where like everyone's like just like looking for some sort of piece of news to make them feel better, or like some because like everybody's already so negative about everything in general.
And again, as a player, right? That's very easy to shit. Like I wanted them, me too, right? Nishi, for what it's worth, Nishitani and Harada brought it up, right? They did discuss it, but you can't you can't expect companies that are not focused on developing that shit to be like, we can't do that. Yeah.
I know that one remark that was made was like, "Oh, it's expensive," and everybody was mad about that. That one remark was like, "Oh, this shit's."
Get back to the office and just get fucking roasted. Are you kidding me? Like, I get it, man.
Yeah.
I want the same thing too. I want some form of accountability because I don't think that I don't think you can move forward if you can't admit that failure. You know what I mean? If you can't say, you know what, we've been fucking up, dude. Look at this shit. This is a travesty. We got to get our shit together. You guys, we hear you. We're working on it. I want to hear that, but I'm mad that I can't hear that way. Yeah. I don't like that I can't hear that from them. But at the same time, I don't expect, like I said, I don't expect Coca-Cola and Pepsi to just lay all the docs on the table to each other Like, you know what? Like we do use too much sugar. It is a little too sweet,
Now, okay, FGC, because it's not, a lot of the stuff isn't online and it's not based really online, it's not able to really adapt. This is why a lot of the other esports have been able to still move along and still move forward despite COVID going on. Would netcode be the only, really be the thing that changes everything? Like, it'd definitely be a big step forward to be like, hey, now you guys can play wherever you want. But would it be the actual thing that changes or solves the problem?
Netcode is a big game changer for sure.
Mhm.
That's maybe I think that's like the easy access, like low hanging fruit answer. Like just be like netcode. But the
Gotcha.
truth is, there are inherent problems with this genre of game. This is where I always come back to the genre. Think genre macro level.
Right.
The netcode is a big deal, no doubt. No one is downplaying that. That shit is a big deal. You have to be able to play these games online. It's 2020, straight up.
Yeah,
The
true.
online experience will never be able to eclipse the offline experience. Everybody knows that. That's fine. You still
Right.
need to be able to play them online. And some of them, for a lot of you guys, you straight up you can't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Given. But there are more problems with the genre than just netcode.
Yeah, I definitely hate that.
There's questions that they have to answer. And a lot of people just say single player content. I don't even want to just say single player content, but there has to be engaging and, in my opinion, just because of the way games are now, I think social content with the game as well. I think because especially with fighting games, they're naturally intimate, they're naturally social experiences, and you don't get that online, dude. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Most like what did he say before we even started? Dude, he's like, oh, you just you're the anime player or whatever like that, right? Everybody know you probably know me from like GG or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you play offline in the most competitive environment for the game, you're playing the best players, every night after night after night. I can't play this game on NetPlay because it doesn't even feel like the same experience to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you get the opportunity to play with like NBA pros on a daily basis, and then you go to like the your workout gym or some shit like that and try to play a pickup game, you're like, man, I've experienced like the pinnacle of this, and then you come to this very like impersonal experience. Like I'm on ranked. I don't even know who this motherfucking guy is. Lagging. This guy,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
It's so socially different. Like there's a complete absence of what is very attractive about playing them that way, right? So I think one problem that they have to solve, yes, content for sure. Single player content, very important. Probably better tutorial content.
Tutorials,
Ways to gamify it, make it to where you're learning how to play without knowing that you're learning how to play. But there's also like social aspect. There has to be some way to integrate like some kind of social aspect to the game, whether it's shit, we had the idea of like they should force voice chat. No matter what, like you can't like, you have to be able to you have to be able to talk or something like that.
Oh my god.
It's just jokes, right? But like something like that where it's socially it's able to replicate in some way, shape, or form.
Like in Dragon Ball, like the stickers in Dragon Ball, like that kind of thing. I guess like you can like send an emote at least. I don't know. After a match.
Are there any FGC titles that are that have taken a step in that direction or in that right direction?
For the social aspect, in my opinion, no. But in terms of single player content and tutorials and stuff, yeah, obviously there's a lot.
Yeah.
The thing with the genre is, and one reason for this is because some companies actually copyright some features and stuff. So it's not actually yeah, that's the thing.
Wow.
You see certain developers or certain games push certain ideas forward, but then in other they won't others. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like all the games shooting off in different directions. Like, we're gonna have a really robust training mode, but then there's no tutorial, or we're gonna have this really good gamified tutorial, but then the core gameplay sucks, or and like there's rollback netcode, but there's no tutorial or something like that.
Right.
I think what's missing is games that deliver complete packages. I've been saying this for a while now.
Yeah.
To me, and this is another inherent problem with the genre now, I think returns for fighting games are generally have low expectations. Okay, so games that are made that have low expectations, when you try to make budgets for them, when you try to allot resources to that, you imagine you're pitching this to a business person that controls all the money for the company, right? For projects, and they don't give a fuck about fighting games. How are you going to convince this person that that this game that might only sell $5 million worth? How are you going to convince them to give you like $50 million or something like that? You know, it's like the math doesn't work out. So because the expectations I feel are lowered, the resources that they're allotted are lowered too. The development cycles are shorter too. It compiles itself. It just kind of snowballs from there. It creates this loop where like they can't get more money to do bigger and bolder things with the game packages because the game packages don't make a lot of money, and they can't get a lot of money because the packages don't make enough. You know, it just loops back.
Vicious cycle. Yeah.
And I think, in my opinion, that's what I'm seeing, and that's where I'm nervous with the genre of the game, because my biggest fear is, my fear is that a lot of developers or publishers that have fighting games, you know, much like Sega, they just stop making them. Like, why make this? Why would we invest in making a new Virtua Fighter when we can just make another Yakuza game and it'll sell way more? You know, like, why even try?
Last longer, yeah. There's so much more. There's other layers, or more layers to a different type of genre than just a fighting game.
So, when I watched I didn't watch the whole round table, but like some of what I took away from it is, for one, I completely understand how hard it must have been to get all of them on board, all the webcams running, them all speaking at the same time, and like, you know, every like Arxis and fucking Capcom, they all had their own separate streams. Like Capcom had English people to, you know, get it all figured out. But I respected that, and I thought that was phenomenal on its own. The whole netcode thing, you know, it's definitely a big deal. But like for me, like my take and my thought on it is, I can imagine that it's no simple fucking task. Like, you know, I worked in game testing for a little bit, so I know how much of a bitch it is to do the random things in the middle of a game. So as far as like, oh, we're gonna throw fixed netcode into Street Fighter V right now, we're gonna make Tekken 7's netcode godlike, I fully understand that that's not an easy thing to just do. My thing was, I'm hoping that come Street Fighter 6, come Tekken 8, this is something that is heavily, like, which I'm sure these games are probably already under development, or, you know, starting to be. I'm hoping that's something that really, like, becomes a big focus going forward. For Street Fighter V, like, we know we have the game for the rest of this year, and after the Capcom Summer Update, we know that we have Street Fighter V for at least one more year. Worst case scenario, we get through it. We survived with the netcode we have in Street Fighter V now since 2016. It's not like it's going to change anything than it was 3 years ago. So, like, just deal with it, and let's hope that come the next games, like, that is something that is played big into. And, like, I think the voice thing would be sick. Definitely, it would.
I was just joking about that. That's just a joke.
I think it still work.
If you ever play
you play some random dude, y'all are shit talking each other.
You have to hear them shit talking.
Your boy goes, y'all shit talk. Your boy goes and look for you on Twitter. Y'all didn't follow each other, didn't know for you on Twitter to be like, hey bitch, what you said online and shit like that. That's gonna start rivalries. To me, I'm about that. I think that would be godlike.
So, two things is, and this is I don't know. I there's not enough time for me to articulate it, but I'll say this: like, from a Western perspective, when not you, but I mean like you guys, people in the West, when you say like that was hard for those JP devs to do, or like it was hard for them to even get on that show, there's an added layer to that you cannot see as a Westerner. There's an added layer to that you will not be able to understand unless you live and you get how business culture is here. Yeah. That shit was the fact that they had competitive. I can't get into it. The fact that they had competitors that were willing to get on a stream and share new stuff about their games with each other. There's an extra emphasis on that shit was like 1 in a million. I did not think that would have been able to happen. I'll put it that way.
Well, yeah, like the thing with Harada when he kind of like was joking and at the beginning when he was like, "Y'all, universe, what are you gonna do next?" Like, I thought like the little interactions between like Harada and Capcom and stuff like that, like even like to me it was dope. It was interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I respected and thought that was a great concept.
The thing is that's funny, they're joking with that's banter and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is and it's not as though they aren't like friendly or like that with each other on a personal basis, right? I'm saying on a corporate level, you have to understand business culture here in Japan, the way it is, that shit is a nightmare, dude. Yeah. The hoops that they had to jump through to even make that happen it's something that you won't be able to see for you as an American or you as a Westerner. You will not be able to perceive the level of stupid shit that they probably had to go through to make that happen. It's one of those things like if you're over here, you know, but it's difficult probably for you guys to appreciate over there.
I think I think you're right. There's a grand scheme, like there's a grand picture thing that culture that seems very more of an Eastern.
It's like super bureaucratic.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm telling you, like it's a big deal. And to be fair, you should watch the first half again, man. I think like there was one question that I was like, not that interesting. But if you care about the development side at all and the kind of conversations that some of these teams are having with each other, there were some interesting topics. I thought the AI topic was pretty interesting because I think when we were just talking about this, right? When we talk about features and single player content and stuff like that, that's something that comes up. So when they were talking about how to build the AI, how to build the AI, what they're aiming for and stuff like that, it's pretty interesting to hear. I've recently cared a little bit more, I think, in recent years about the development side of things and their perspectives on that. So I thought it was personally pretty interesting. And shit, hopefully they do it again, man. And that's what I'm saying too, man. Hopefully they do it again, and maybe next time they're willing to sit down. You know what? We're just gonna talk about netcode for 2 hours. Fuck it. I'm almost glad they didn't because I wouldn't have want anybody to get cut off in 15 minutes. No, hell no. Yeah. Do the whole fucking show about that shit. Talk about this shit for 2 hours.
Yeah, I think the one thing that makes it
me, I think I would have been able to enjoy the overall thing a lot more if I understood Japanese, because. Like, I was watching the Capcom stream, and the guys that were translating, I feel like they were only translating bits and pieces or giving you, like, oh, well, this is basically what they just said. And, like, it's like they're trying to play catch-up because while they're translating, other stuff is being said. So,
dude, that's just how live interpreting is. Like, live interpretation is just like that. And to be honest, you probably didn't miss that much. They covered the important bits, I'm pretty sure.
But I feel like if I would have been able to understand, while I'm hearing everybody talk, I would have just got it and not have to worry. I probably would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah, maybe so. But yeah, that's just how live translation, live interpretation is. While you're interpreting something, you're missing what they're saying at that moment, so you have to summarize.
Yeah.
That's not an easy job either.
Not bad. Definitely trying to like keep up with them and shit.
Yeah, especially when it's not in person, when it's on a fucking 19-man Zoom call. Are you serious? Like, that shit is a nightmare.
Yeah, I remember there was a part where like Harada was like, "Can we like start putting our hands up and stuff like that?" And I was like, "Damn,
that's too much."
I think one thing that's frustrating though is that when you look at like some of the North American companies making fighting games, is like they already solved these issues, like the netcode issue,
for sure.
and
I think and I don't think
aspects, and they did it years ago. Like like Killer Instinct released like 4 or 5 years ago or something, and that's like it released. I know they developed a netcode for it that works, and I think that's another layer for it for like Westerners.
For frustration,
I mean, these companies, like we already have companies like NRS already does a lot of these things, and
and no one's denying that.
Iron
right?
Galaxy has.
There's also a catch-22 when you talk about NRS though, and that's. Have you watched the GDC talk where they talked about how they made their rollback?
I have not actually. I should.
You should.
Watch that.
So I'll spoil you. I watched that whole GDC talk and I understood maybe 20% of it. Okay, it's very high level, like techno babble. But here's the thing that you did get an appreciation for: the investment, financial investment, time investment and the combination of those two, man hours that went into doing what they did probably exceeded the cost of what most other developers are willing to invest. Straight up. When you watch that GDC talk, if you get the chance to, it'll really open your eyes, man. You definitely get a sense of when that was what, for MKX when they did that?
Yeah, I think in the MKXL changed everything with the
MKX,
netcode.
it had been out for a year, right? It was already a release game, and you know how NRS cycle works, right? 2 years. They only let that shit out there for 2 years. So for them, think about it in the context of in their framework, right? Their game, which is already halfway through its life cycle or whatever, they have to invest this much. They made the good call because they knew it was a future play. They knew that every title that came after would have this, and it would only be improved from there, and it was important for the playability, right? But they had to be willing to invest. I don't know how much, but it sounded very fucking expensive. It sounded like it took a lot of engineers, like 6 to 12 dudes working pretty much full time on this for a long ass time. They had to rebuild the fucking game, basically, right?
Yeah.
Not so. Hold that. So hold that in the back of your head. I guess I can't. It'd be shit talking, I guess, if I did that. There are certain games. Okay, so there's certain games that were not even willing to give their major IP release recently enough staff to properly do, like. I mean, you do just look at some of the newer games. They've been outsourced to even do like character models. I'll put it this way: there's some games where I look at some character models and I'm like, man, this character looks really nice. And then I look at this character model and I'm like, who made this shit? Why does this dude have French fries on his head? He doesn't look like this. Dude, his knees are backwards. What the hell's going on here? You know, there's certain games you can look at. If those companies aren't willing, or if they're too rushed to even address like that kind of stuff, do you think they're going to be willing to invest that much in redoing the net play infrastructure for a 3 or 4 year old game for them?
Wouldn't it be, I guess this kind of comes down to that company, though, or whoever it is, that group, to kind of be the trailblazer, so to speak, to kind of be like, we're just going to do it. We're going to be that.
I mean, you have that, right? So DJ even brought it up. Shit. Double Helix, the KI, right? KI did a lot of that stuff, right, with NetPlay. One of the guys that did the netcode for KI is working at Arxis. What do you think their next game has? Has rollback netcode. He's a part of the staff, right? Under Kamone with French Bread, who does Under Night. He's been talking about it. He finally got on board. He's like, you know what? I'm trying to put rollback into the next game or whatever.
Power Rangers.
Who else?
Power Rangers has it, but
Arica. Yeah, Arica just released their beta version with that. It's not as though it's not catching on now. You know, obviously they're late. You'd like to see maybe more a more aggressive approach to it.
And I think the other thing that really lit a fire was that Melee got added rollback from one guy who sat in his house for I don't know however many months and just.
But you know what, man? That's not even that strange. You got to remember, like Melty Blood did that shit in fucking 2000. What 2005, 2006? That shit's not new. You know, that shit's mad old. GGPO, Fight Aid, Melty Blood, all those fucking like. It's not terribly new. Mauve, Mad Magician, those dudes were doing that shit years ago.
That's true.
It just. I don't know why. I don't like that it did, but it took a while for people here to notice and catch on, and really get a sense for how important and how unplayable their games are overseas with what is present right now. That said, it's a huge undertaking, and it is a big investment. It's a long-term one, mind you, but it's that you got to understand. That's a lot that goes into that. I'm telling you, watch that GDC talk; it'll open your eyes. I told you, I don't understand 70% of what he's talking about, but the 30% I did understand, I was like, damn, this shit was very expensive, and it took a lot of people working very hard.
It seems to be a misconception people have. They like think they could just slap it in because Fight Kid exists and
it's
Melee
not.
got it.
Yeah, it's not some magic bullet shit. It's some shit that you got to have people
this is another
working
thing I'm
on that.
Curious about though, if this is a misconception, The other thing that I've heard a lot is that everybody's like Japanese companies don't care as much because Japanese internet is godlike or whatever they say, and people can already play within local short distances between each other in Japan. I was wondering if like internet is actually even like that.
It's better
massively
than
much
your internet
better.
for
Yeah.
sure. You can definitely net play here, but do you think it's perfect? No, dude. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Let's think about what I just told you. I don't play Guilty Gear Online here because I know what it's like playing it offline, and I don't want to play that shit. Even with people here, Under Night. I want to play Under Night. I really wanted to grind this year in that game. Net play is just even with people here, it's not fun. It's bad. It's just straight up not good, right? Yeah, I mean that's definitely not a thing. The average internet here is better for sure, but does that mean it's good enough to play? But it's not. This myth that it's just perfect all the time. I don't know where people get that. It's definitely not. You can watch tournaments here. You can watch online tournaments here. You can clearly see it's not.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, it sucks though too, because like I guess using KI an example, and I know KI has its own mechanics that a lot of people are either fans of or are not, but seeing other FCC titles that do have that rollback net code, but still are falling back behind. There's so much more that needs to be worked on for the games to like flourish.
Yeah, like I said, it's really just about like it's a big one. Don't get me wrong. I think it is. It's because it's so many other things are dependent on it, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a big building block, no doubt, but it's not the only one. I think it's especially like I said, there's a lot of people right now that just parrot whatever X person says. It's just like, yeah, Neko, rollback, yeah. Like, you gotta be willing to look macro level. There's more than that at stake. There's more than that to solve here. Just because you have rollback, you think that's gonna random kid buys this game, right? He has to choose between playing this fighting game or playing Fortnite. Does rollback netcode solve the problem of trying to attract him to play the fighting game over Fortnite? No.
And no, because like look at the games that do have rollback. Like it turns out a lot of the games that have rollback aren't the most popular games. Them Fighting Herds, Power Rangers, Killer Instinct. These are games that, well, outside of Power Rangers, but like Skullgirls. These are games that until we had no option but to play online, everybody left behind. And everybody's like, oh, well, now that we have to play online, let's play something with good online. So you're dusting off games that for the last 2 or 3 years you forgot existed or have completely shitted on them. I mean, okay, like Street Fighter, Tekken, even arguably Dragon Ball. Those are your most popular fighting games, and they all have bad netcode. And at the end of the day, even with the bad netcode, Street Fighter, Tekken, Dragon Ball, Mortal Kombat all stood up here, while the games with the great netcode, Killer Instinct, Them Fighting Herd, Skullgirls, was all dragging down here. So like that obviously isn't the make or break factor.
For a lot of them, they have their dedicated communities, but for sure they definitely were lacking on support that some of those titles that you mentioned had, and I don't think that's a A because B kind of equation, but it is some. I mean, that is a valid point. They weren't getting the support that maybe they should have. That now I think you look at it a little bit differently, right? Yeah. I guess you've noticed a trend too. Everybody seems to be picking up one of those games now, right?
You have to if they. I think in over here, like in the West a little bit, we're kind of seeing. Like in Japan, you were talking about the license earlier, where players want to focus on that to make money, and it's very different for the play. I think here is kind of reaching that culture a little bit, due to the fact that esports is becoming more of an avenue to make money.
I think it reached that point a while ago. I think there's a lot. I mean, just straight up, I think there's some people that are definitely into fighting games, again, for specifically notoriety or money. Like they're getting something out of it.
And that's something we've actually talked about on another episode before, because like I strongly do believe that. So like to touch to the two different sides of it, because part of it I was going to say back when you talked about when you were like see as many people play multiple games at a high level the way you used to. I feel like part of that has to do with because now that esports is such a big thing, if you're a really good Street Fighter player, you get signed onto an org as a Street Fighter 5 player. So it's kind of hard for you to have that mindset to take that extra time and try to focus on other games too, because you don't want to fall behind on the game that you're getting your money, you're paying your bills with. At the end of the day, you might want to play Tekken and not be that great in it and put more time into it. But as soon as your results start declining in your main game, you're now risking your livelihood. So I feel like that's part of the issue, at least out here. But also, that's literally something we've touched on before. Is I asked the question, because and this goes with a lot of things that Mike Ross has said before. If esports wasn't so popular and it wasn't going to get you, the Twitter followers, the Twitch views, and the clout and the jersey and everything, would we see a lot of the same people that we see now? If it was just still straight for the raw love of the game and your only focus is to show that you're one of the best players and you're proud to say that, would we still see some of the faces that we see now if the money and the fame and the Twitter followers and the jersey wasn't there?
Will we still see some of those faces? I mean, the answer is obviously
Some of them,
right?
yeah.
Well, no, I mean, like, I'm worded that incorrect. Like, would we still see the long people? Because you can kind of tell that there's some people that are there for esports and not for the love.
Right? You're saying like volume of number, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't know. Maybe I definitely know we wouldn't see some of them for sure, but most, I don't know, man. Maybe you have to imagine that it's responsible for getting a lot of eyeballs, and maybe some of those people matriculate into players and matriculate into being competitors. Maybe one of those guys signs up, goes to Evo, or they go to combo.
Uh-oh.
We've lost him.
Oh no.
Japan is down.
Internet outage? What happened? It
Yeah,
didn't
he's
right?
Oh, whoa.
Oh, what?
Yo, yo, talk about rollback.
Yeah.
You literally just like roll back.
All of a sudden, it just like caught itself
It just,
up like you were rewinding a tape.
Yeah, it was like a
Was
Street
that-
Fighter 5 ranked
I never
replay.
That was you, yeah.
All right. Well, I guess maybe it might be just Discord. Then.
Yeah, that was probably
But,
a Discord glitch. Yeah, it just like fast forwarded everything.
What was I saying?
You were the last thing you were talking about was, would we see the same faces? And then you kind of paused and you're like, well, and then that was your.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is, for a lot of those guys or people rather, they, because of all the stuff that you're talking about, right? Like the show of it all, the performance and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe that brings in some people. Maybe that person that watches that stream or that show, they sign up for Evo or they sign up for Combo Break. They go in person. They matriculate into a player. So in that regard, I mean, I don't know, man. It'd be interesting if there was like some kind of numbers I could base that on. It would be interesting to see how many people started as like somebody that just watched something online and just matriculate. I mean, shit, that's how I started, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure for a lot of people that's the case. You saw this video and you're like, holy shit, I want to learn how to do that. And all of a sudden you go digging and you find you're in.
Yeah, I was mashing with
Yeah.
Fuerte online in Street Fighter 4, and then I found the Evo video, Justin Wong versus Daigo.
Well, so to speak on that, it's kind of funny how some people that like really enjoy fighting games are so out of touch with like the esports or the pro scene. Like that guy who, all right, this was maybe a month ago. Brian F. They were talking about netcode, and Brian F. said something about Dragon Ball, and this guy told Brian F. He was like, if you want to talk about Dragon Ball, play me in Street Fighter. You haven't experienced netcode hell until you've played Street Fighter. And it was like, did this guy just tell Brian F. like, if you think that's bad, you should try Street Fighter? Because Brian F.'s response was, okay, let's play. Like the dude had no idea who Brian was. So he was just like, oh, if you want to find out a real bad netcode, come play me. And Brian's like, okay, sure, let's play. Like it was like somebody who,
but like, I mean, that just sounds like typical Twitch chat goombas, right? Like just doesn't know any better, right? Yeah, I mean, people say shit like that all the time. It's just funny. It's just like, are you good? Yeah, you got
in Twitch chat, but it's like the dude literally like addressed Street Fighter. Brian, like he thought Brian was a Dragon Ball player, not a Street Fighter player.
Oh well, dude, if it's so here's the thing with Dragon Ball is, Dragon Ball has this very large YouTube, and it's almost like it's the separate. There's a little bit of overlap, but not that much. This separate YouTube community, this weird little YouTube Dragon Ball ecosystem.
There's been a lot more
where
viewers
they don't actually know shit about fighting games, right? They don't actually know anything, but they're just like this weird Dragon Ball. I guess it's tangential to like DBZ YouTube fandom, but there's this weird like DBFZ YouTube ecosystem where they don't know shit, dude. They're just mad ignorant, right? They like don't know anything. I'm not surprised at all to hear that one of them be like challenge Brian F to Street Fighter V, and that is not surprising me. And I know that because I read a lot of the stupid shit they say on a regular basis.
Dudes be wilding in the chat all the time.
Yeah.
It's not even the YouTube comment section. That's
Yeah.
It's like what? Like, have
You
you
never
ever
read
played
the comments.
game before, man? Shut up. You know.
What was it? Forget who it was. I think I forgot what event it was. I remember Rob said something in the Twitter feed though that it was Daigo winning against
because when Daigo won the CPT, everybody was like basically discrediting Daigo, like, or putting him that, like, not giving Daigo the credit he deserves and shit like that.
Well, based on what?
Based on the fact that he was playing Guile. And he's like, I can do that kind of shit with Guile. Like, I never get hit with that shit with Guile.
It was the fact on like how clean like his whiff punishes were and stuff like that. And it was like, the whiff punishes he was pulling out against Fudo were like amazingly clean and stuff like that. And Rob was complimenting how great his whiff punishes were, and it was a bunch of people being like, "Oh, I can whiff punish like that with Guile," and it's like, all right, when Rob was basically like, you go play Fudo and get those whiff punishes on Fudo.
Right? My question is, who is Rob TV talking about? Who is he talking about?
It was a lot of people that were in the chat and stuff like that on Twitter.
They're legit.
It's the YouTube comment section.
Homunculi. They're not even humans, right? They literally are just like it's just like human DNA grown from dirt. Like they resemble people, but they're not real. Who the fuck are these people, dude?
You are in a homunculus.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're just like, they share like 99.3. Have you ever seen Evangelion? The Angels, the spoiler of the show is they share 99.3% of human DNA, but they're not people. They're like alternate people, right? They're alternate trajectories of what we could have become. That, as far as I'm concerned, that's who he's talking about. Those like what? That's not. Those are the kind of people you just point at and laugh at. Like, y'all are stupid as fuck. That doesn't even warrant a tweet. People who say that straight up, people who would say that do not play fighting games. Straight up. Like, what do you even say to that?
Basically, it was
Rob delusional, especially on the internet when they can be anonymous. They're just,
they're the anti-maskers of the
stream
FGC.
But those kinds of those people rise up over whatever, right? So something that you have to be aware of is like Streisand effect. Is you don't give people like that respect you don't give them enough respect to even comment on what they're saying. It says them saying stupid shit like that says more about them than it does anybody else. Like, if you play these games, if you play the game, then you know how fucking good that was, right? Especially for a guy with the fucking is sweeps man unsafe. Are you serious? He's taking a huge risk every time he even tries to go for that. What a stupid comment, you know? But that's
you. Those are YouTube comments, man. That's
I don't know who he was talking about, but like I wouldn't even.
Oh, he was just talking about like people. He was talking about the people like the YouTube commenters that you're talking about that are just like like they're just there to bitch about shit because
let me see your reaction test results, dude. Can you react in 7 frames? Did you get the?
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like that like there's this weird like SF5 Twitter sphere that. I guess they'll pop up on my feed like every now and then. I'm just like, dude, shut the fuck up. You know, it's those same people. What was it like? What's an example? Like a couple years ago, they're like, Street Fighter V is not real Street Fighter. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Have you ever even played this fucking games? What does that even mean? Have you ever played more than one Street Fighter? You know what it is to me is It's people that only play Street Fighter 4, only play Street Fighter 5.
Yeah. First of all,
That's
they're
the
all
only
different.
frame of
Yeah.
reference that they have. So they base all their truth, all their reality, their perception of the world revolves around their own small experience, and they literally don't know shit about anything outside that. Alpha 3 is real Street Fighter for you? Are you serious? Do you know anything about that game? Alpha 2, you trying to get custom combo, lose 60% of y'all for standing up in front of somebody? Yeah. Shut the fuck up, dude. Real Street Fighter, get the fuck out of here.
Well, I mean, we got people like that in our own home community. You remember Christian?
Yeah. Which Christian, you talking about? Third Strike?
Hispanic guy. Yeah.
I love that dude.
So yeah, I mean, dude, Christian's the GOAT. But I mean, like once everybody stopped playing Third Strike and stuff at Dibs, Christian never came out again. I've seen Christian like one time since old Street Fighter 4 fight night at Dibs. I saw him at Walmart randomly, and
Third Strike has people like that too, where they don't want to play anything like Third. I guess it's a little. It's kind of the same, but it's a little bit different. To me, though, it's like, to me, I'm willing to try new games and try different experiences. I just want to, but I end up sticking with the ones that feel the most rewarding to me, right? If you feel this one in particular is that rewarding to you, the way you can't enjoy any of these other ones, that's on you, right? Like, I think that's bullshit, but I also can't put a gun to your head and I can't make you like something that I like, you know what I mean? Or make you see that. There's people that have preferences like that, and that's fine, but it's more like when you take your experience, your limited experience, and you try to copy and paste that and just say like, okay, everything like revolves like this. That's like, come on, man, that's not true. Like, if you've done any homework on this shit, it's not the same to me as like, what was another recent like Street Fighter 5 Twitterverse thing? It was like, do you talk to your opponent when you play? I'm like, dude, are you serious? Who was it? Somebody was like, don't talk to me when we're playing in a tournament match. Don't talk to me, dude. I
saw that, but I can't remember.
I was playing somebody at Combo Breaker last year, and they were like, "Are these casuals? Can I get next?" And we're like, "No, this is a tournament, man." I was talking shit about his. I was talking to him like he was my cousin or some shit the whole fucking time. It was a mid-tournament match. Like, yeah, you guys better over here, bitch. Just at the top of our lungs, just going at each other. But it's so bizarre to me to see some of the perspectives that people have, and it's based off of just like this very limited, almost like life experience. I don't know. It's weird. Y'all weird, man. Honestly, sometimes I gotta just like, maybe I'm too old. I'm just like, some of y'all just weird, bro. I can't fuck with y'all. You're hard to relate to.
I don't think it's being weird. I think I don't think you're weird for like being like, that's fucking stupid. It is fucking stupid. I will say, like, kind of going on what you said of like how you're able to like basically talk shit to the person you're playing with the FGC. I think I wish other esports had that. That's the thing that seeing in the FGC, like, because going into this, when I first came into this, I knew nothing about the FGC. Like, I played Killer Instinct Gold maybe a little bit, touched a little bit of Tekken, touched a little bit of Virtual Fighter, nothing really. So Dylan kind of showed me the ropes on a lot of things, and that was the first thing that caught my attention. Was like, man, everybody's almost like they're friends here, man.
So let me ask y'all something. You commented on like that attitude, that kind of energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there is more of that now or less of that now? So you said that's a unique thing in the fighting games that you don't see a lot of other competitive communities have, right?
Right.
My question is, like, in our respective community, now obviously we haven't had a lot of offline events this year, right? But your feelings up until now, do you feel like that's something that's been sustained, or is that something that's decreasing or increasing? What do you think? All three of y'all. I'm curious.
Just from my own limited experience with it, it's something that I constantly saw. Like, at every event that I went to, CEO and the 2 Evos that I went to, it's something that I saw throughout every time with every event. It seemed very similar, and it seemed, maybe it was dwindling a little bit.
But that's not like shit talking, like in match.
Yeah, kind of. No, like
I just mean in general, dude. Like, even just like releases when you win, shit talk, that just that kind of energy.
Oh, that. Okay.
I would say shit
So you're
talking,
including like pop offs and shit too.
Yeah, I would say familiarity with one another. Like I've seen like DJ, I've seen you play against somebody that you had no clue who they were, and you guys were talking back and forth, and I was like, does DJ fucking know this person?
Are you talking about
you're just like
his match on stream at Evo last year?
What's
the
up?
Ball player.
Maybe
when he played him on stream, and after they were talking on stream, and then he got up, DJ popped off and went and like hugged Alex on the stage.
Oh, you're talking on the NRS stream. Oh yeah, Evo.
Yeah, the Cabal player.
Yeah. I had played games with him online one time before, like just like some matches because he streams and stuff.
Yeah, so you'll remember their names sometimes, like Alex. So like Alex, keep in mind for Devil Trigger, up until we picked him up, really, he had never traveled, but like people had seen his name online, and then now by Alex's second major, he already was getting noticed and being spoken to by a lot of the best players in NRS games, like holy shit, all their names are blank to me right now, but you get the gist of it. Like he was being it only took 2 or 3 majors of him to and show that he could do the same thing on LAN online that he could do online, and he's there. I think it was KIT Tennessee. He's getting drunk with why can't I think his dude's name?
That's not an uncommon story these days either. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like, especially in the West, right? Players that do really well online really grind it out in particular. The players that grind online really hard, it's not really strange for them to show up to offline events and they do really well, and it's like a surprise for a lot of people, right? But if you grind play the game and you run across their names, it makes sense that this person. In fact, like Tekken with North America, right? Some of the players that are doing the best right now in North America were people who grinded Tag 2 net play, that kind of thing. Hell, Lost Soul was a net play monster, and he got 3rd place at Evo,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like a lot of other communities are more welcoming to that than Street Fighter, to be honest.
What, the net play monster, you mean?
Yeah, like your online warriors get like dogged, and I don't know. I feel like it's a little like other communities and other games. They're like Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Dragon Ball. They like all about that, but like an online warrior and Street Fighter, he'll get dogged. Well, granted, I say that, but then I think about the amount of online warriors talk mad shit on Twitter, and that's probably why it reflects that way.
I don't think it's that different. I think it's all the same. Like I think all people that are just net players, I think they all get shit talked and they all should be get like clowned on, right? Because my thing is, you gotta bring that to an event and show me something. But I don't think like once you do that, I don't think there's like a particular like strong bias or negativity towards them or anything like that. You gotta bring it off. You gotta bring it offline. That's the thing.
I mean, I do feel like but I guess if this was your question specifically, I do feel like the shit talk and pop offs have started to die off. Like when you think of some of the best, most recent pop offs, you got your K Brad on Wolf Crone at final round, which was that was like 2016, 2017. That was a good little bit ago. One of my favorites when Toy double eliminated LP from Evo in 20. I think that was 2017. He put LPN in losers and pools, and then got dropped into losers, and then eliminated LPN. And Toy did his little going Super Saiyan screaming shit. Like I don't know.
Clarity, I'm not talking specifically about like pop offs. I'm talking just that energy. I don't want to say familiarity because, to be honest with you, I think like people being overly familiar is one of the reasons why we had so much stupid shit come out in the past few months. Like some of y'all just be way too familiar, dog. Like, But I'm just talking about like in general that kind of. So you brought up like Toy. Toy is somebody to me that has that kind of energy, where just like very talkative, very animated, gets into the game like that. It's not limited to just like a pop off or whatever you want to call it, or just shit talk, but just that kind of energy, that kind of intensity or based around social interactions, based around the gameplay, based around whatever. It's not a specific thing, but just kind of in general. I don't know. I still feel it from a lot of events, right? I still feel it, but I definitely think that there's been a kind of shift in terms of like I guess this came up recently, right? In terms of like being sensitive, like there's way more. And to be fair, I guess there's a lot of people in the community, in the scene now that maybe they don't have the same social experiences that people like you or I do, right? So they're not used to people, talking real loud in the middle of a match or calling them a bitch or some shit like that, right? Like right to their face. And it's fighting games, dude. There's mad socially awkward people here and stuff like that, right? So
right.
you have to remember that. I think to a degree that definitely has changed a little bit. I'm not saying that the way things were before in the old days was always good or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying that all of that was 100% appropriate, because obviously it was not. But I do think like it's a little bit, it's shifting towards a much more tamer position, in my opinion. I'm not sure if I 100% like that, but it's definitely going in that direction. But here's the thing, man. A lot of people have been saying, like, FGC so soft, they soft, blah, all that other shit. My thing is, I think you can still have that energy, and you can still bring that intensity and bring that energy, but you can just do it without, possibly
someone a bitch.
I guess without saying or doing stuff that's just really heinous. You know what I mean? Like, I think for a long time, like think about like the F champ thing, right? So like he's just a villain. He's just a villain. You see all these like Goomba level individuals who just like, he's a villain. It's a character. What? Like, yeah, okay, but if your character and persona is based around, calling Tokido the F word on video, like, is that really that's not villain. That's just being an ass. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's not like, that's just a specific example or something like that. I think that the scene deserves a better class of villain.
Yeah.
I think it's just crazy to me that you can play these games. You have these creative individuals that play these really creative games, right? The best kinds of games that are, fighting games to me are ones where you can really impose your personality and impose your sense of creativity on how you play the game, right? But then we end up with these discussions where we're like, oh, if you can't say or do this thing, then this idea can't exist. You can't be a villain if you aren't willing to piss people off or shit on gay people or shit on like this group or whatever, right? Like, what? How are you this creative but you can't think of a way to bring that intensity or bring that energy without taking a dookie on a group of people like that? It's weird to me. I don't know.
I think that goes back to the same type of people that are you were talking about, how like their limited experience is, when I think of a villain or when I think of whatever that villain is, like they're the type that rile up people. They're the type that say controversial things, and they're not. Like, you don't have to, like you said, you can definitely come up with a different persona and a different way to, to use examples of people like who are successful in doing it, not even just in the FGC, but look at Dr. Disrespect. His whole thing is a persona, and it goes a little bit of ways in some aspects, but for the most part, he's just an older guy who's just really into video games, but he like comes off as like, oh, I'm just like hard ass.
Man, that's been a saga, hasn't it?
That whole thing, and again, and as culture has been growing and developing, the old ways of villains, to put it, it doesn't fit in this world anymore. You have to.
I think modern social climate, there's it's definitely harder to make it work, but I think there's ways you can come up with compelling ways to be a quote unquote bad guy. I don't like it being limited to, you have to do this or you have to do that. I don't buy that. I think you can definitely bring in a different.
You can be entertaining and
can
call people out in different ways that don't have to be, offensive or
so it's
ignorant
weird.
or whatever.
So for that reason, it's weird for me to hear people like just kind of give up, be like, "Oh, this can't work anymore."
Yeah.
Like, I think you could
Like,
try to
we're
find.
all just gonna be professional all the time, and it's not gonna be
Yeah, because
like,
that's I guess that was my point. I don't want it to become that way.
mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, I feel
And
like
to
that's
be
what
fair,
separates
I don't
us
think
from a lot of.
I don't think it will. I don't think it can anymore, to be honest. But I definitely think like that's one of the frustrating points I think for me as somebody who came in. I'm not an old head. I'm not like an OG. I'm considered like new gen, I think. But one of the things that really got me into it was that energy, was that that intensity, that goes hand in hand, I think, with the competitive aspect too, right? And then it's fun, it's unique, right? Like you guys were saying. I worried for a while that we were proceeding in a trajectory where we were losing more and more of that, if that makes sense. Becoming a little bit too sterile, becoming a little bit too safe, static.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When that was one of those things, and it's a catch-22 because obviously when there's more corporations involved, when there's more, you have corporate sponsorships, you have professional teams and all this stuff. When you get more and more stakeholders involved like that, naturally not everything is kosher anymore, right? But finding that balance, I think, has been really difficult for fighting games over the years. Because that's sad, man. When you get to the point where you're like, damn, this is boring, It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, I think I grew up like in the I guess like within the FGC, I grew up just like seeing a lot of like there was like the salty sweet streams and all these other like like not officially produced streams and all these other things, and like I go to events and I'm hanging out in hotel rooms with like 15 dudes deep or whatever, and people are drinking and hanging out and chilling, and that was kind of the environment that I like when I kind of I guess started enjoying the FGC, and I really liked that energy, and it was really cool.
That's a common story. I think that's common.
Yeah. And I feel like I guess that has changed a little bit. Like there's less of that. Just so I don't know. I've been seeing recently, like I've been having discussions with certain people about like I wish there were more like opportunities for players to present their personalities like at events, like at top players at least, or like during top eights, or like having like interviews or something like that, like little ways to like let them shine as well as people instead of just like here's the match. Here's the
thing, right? Because that's a very important point, and that's something that's I thought that for a while that's something that our events needed to do to become more compelling. For example, I'm in favor of some shit like, all right, 3-day tournament. First day, don't even stream pools. Only stream the winners finals and losers final of the pools. For the rest of the stream, walk around the venue, talk to people.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Talk to normal people, talk to competitors. Part of the fun with going to those events is people getting drunk and playing, people doing money matches. I mean, that's the fun. That's the fun of going to those events. So to me, I was always like, they should be trying to show that, show that experience as opposed to just the match every time. The problem is this. So what you're talking about, in order to do that, you need like a roaming cameraman, you need an interviewer. That's already adding to the budget for the production costs.
Yeah.
It on top of an already expensive event. Who's paying for that? Where's it coming from? This conversation came up, I think, a year or two ago when people were talking like, what about the analyst desk? The analyst desk. That shit costs money. Who is paying for that? And that's part of and just look around, my thing is this. Straight up. How many orgs, teams, sponsor, whatever, how many do you see jumping into fighting games recently?
Definitely a lack.
Definitely a lack.
Yeah, not a lot.
Where's that coming from? This stuff that you want? I want it too, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying like just practically, like how can you make this work?
I mean, we just recently seen a lot of bigger orgs actually exit the scene as a whole.
Yeah.
That is definitely true. That is true.
I mean, so this is a little different because it wasn't like officially through Evo, but I mean, we've kind of had something like that. I mean, the Street Fighter 30th anniversary documentary, literally 80% of that documentary was filmed roaming around Evo 2016. I think it was 2016.
I that was mostly.
I mean,
that's
like that wasn't official Evo though. That wasn't like an Evo ran thing. But
that was.
like
I think
said,
Capcom USA specifically, they're like, we're gonna make this, so they got a budget to do it, and then they did it. But you can't, that's not for like every stream that they were doing, And the thing is, I think it comes back to what I was talking about earlier when it comes to development, is reward expectations, and then that being leveraged with like investment and how resource allotment, right? So like, okay, cool, you pay this much money to get this analyst desk or whatever. How much does that increase the viewership? How much does that increase the ad revenue? Does it increase it enough to warrant the investment of getting the esports analyst desk or whatever? Or is that helping sell that much more product to where you're willing to invest? You have to pay 3 more commentators. You have to pay for another stage. You have to pay for all this shit. Is that investment worth what you're going to get in return for it? From a business perspective, it's hard to say, right?
I mean, honestly, you don't really know until you try and give it a shot. Like, even for BlizzCon for World of Warcraft, people actually love the analyst desk for World of Warcraft. Definitely since, like, last year's BlizzCon, they got some of the pros who didn't qualify for BlizzCon. They threw them on the analyst desk, and people really enjoyed it. So, I mean, like,
that was at BlizzCon though, right? So that's Blizzard put on too.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
We're talking about, for a lot of this stuff, you're talking about like third parties getting involved. You're looking for like third party sponsorship and third party partnerships, right? So it's one thing if you're doing it, you're just like, yeah, fuck it, man. Which, I'll get an analyst. That's no problem. But when it comes to other companies having to make agreements for that kind of stuff, you have to put dollars and cents to it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's one thing if it's for Dota where they're making, millions of dollars or whatever, when they're crowdfunding and boosting the pool, the prize pool, all this other shit. But for our ecosystem, it's a much harder sell. You have to be a lot more creative to come up with ways that.
I think it's an unfortunate missed opportunity though, because there's a way to display like all the, I don't know, like
I'm really curious now. Like now, I wish we could see a trial of it to see how it would go.
If there's a way to capture the energy of an event and show that off. Before. Yeah.
I want to say maybe in the ESL or something like that. It's definitely been done before. It's not terribly new.
There are ways. I'm trying to think what was successful at doing it. I know, like you can definitely do tournaments where you can emulate knowing or like having that social closeness. You would it all obviously it'll have to be virtual. Probably have to use webcams and stuff like that. But I think it's doable. It's just going to be maybe a little awkward at first. Counter-Strike is the game I'm thinking about. They had an event. That's a long time ago, like early 2000s. Everything they did was online, for the most part. They had majors and stuff, but they used to have something called Cal League, which was kind of the amateur cyber athlete amateur league. And whenever you'd go to events, or not events, when you'd watch matches, even the slow ones, they'd have like a chat room to be like, we're giving you the live feed of what's going on. And this is before, Twitch and stuff like that. So you can say like, oh, it's like streaming, you can go back to that. But it was different because here they had more rooms for like webcams. So it was like, it's like having a little chat room like you and I, like we're having right now, and everybody's watching the same match. And you can and they would, this is when you can see each other. So they would have a webcam seeing everybody in play. So you're also watching everybody and everything's virtual. So I guess basically what I'm trying to see is, I know that sounds like super confusing, but it's like, if you can, right now, the thing with the FGC that I enjoy the most, and I think like, if there's a way to hit on it the most and make the most, what it really excels at is that you can play the person next to you, whether you know them or not,
I agree.
and you can definitely have the familiarity. I wish
That offline, that
yeah.
social contact interaction, right?
Right, and that is because a lot of it was based offline. FGC was built offline because of the arcades. So I think that's never something that's going to go away. The question is like,
How do you tap into that as best you can in the most like tasteful way possible, right?
and I think unfortunately the route FGC has been going is not focusing on that, and therefore it is why it's no longer adaptable, or at least it doesn't seem as adaptable as anymore because it's going the route of other esports where it is more like focus on the game, focus on the gameplay, focus on that stuff. But like we've been saying, FGC games don't not too successful if you're just looking at the game itself.
I definitely agree to an extent. I don't. Well, specifically the statement that you said that I really feel strongly about is I don't think we capitalize enough on what makes us unique.
Right.
In that regard.
Exactly.
To me, again, is when I go to a tournament as a player, sure, yeah, I want to do it. I want to do well in the tournament. I want to, do as best I can or whatever. I want to win, right? But there's more than just the game. Before I go to a tournament or an event, I'm like, man, I can't wait to do, I can't wait to see this guy and go do this or whatever, or go eat this or do, whatever it is. Especially for some events, like CEO, I guess CEO and Combo Breaker up until now, they've had their own like kind of tournament environment, tournament feels, right? So like, what I would want is to be able to more strongly present that to people who aren't there. What it's like being here, what the experience of coming to these events is like. And obviously, like this conversation kind of moot right now because of COVID, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
And probably won't be a relevant combo for another probably 2 years. But I hope that when events do come back, that's something that I think I would want the trajectory for our events to kind of do that and focus on it. And I hope that gets through to the stream. To be honest, yeah, I think that's something that we should try to do a little bit better.
That'd be a cool content series, just show just a video of somebody's tournament experience and just like all the funny random candid moments, and I don't know, just
so 2 things on that is like one thing that we should be doing at like a game like that. Every event they pick a couple players throughout the event and they do it's called behind the controller, and they actually like do like a little like short interview and like getting to know said player and like let the player like talk about them and then they talk about the player. That would be something great for us to have at events. Like, this player has stood out in pools. Let's throw him on there. And then like the closest thing I feel like we had to that was, obviously Salty Sweets are the best. But something that was interesting and different and really cool was like when Evo started doing ball fights. That one year where it was the year that all of us went together in 2017. We all went down there together. When it was Smug versus I'm Still the Daddy. Not only was that like a big like little grudge thing, but I like that they did like the recordings of like somebody sat down with Smug and Smug talked shit and was like, I'm about to go buy a new pair of Jordans with the money I'm about to take from you. And then I'm Still the Daddy. They did an interview with him and he was like, I'm about to take this money I won from Smug and I'm gonna go give it to a homeless man or whatever. It was like you actually had like 5 minutes apart where like the player, each one of them just talked and then bam, you had the match. And I thought that was like something really cool and really interesting that had a lot of potential.
Yeah, it's not a new concept either. It's something that's like fight cards have been a thing for forever, right? But
yeah, Absolute Battle used to do them too with the grudge matches.
Like you said, being able to capture the player-to-player interaction like that and present that in a way that is can draw people in. It's kind of compelling. It's like, okay, it's fun, right? That's something we probably need more of, I think.
Yeah.
Because that is, like you said, like that's unique, right? That's something that you're not going to get in a lot of other game scenes. So yeah, and I hope that with kind of the turn that content is taking now, I hope that that's something that can persist in the future. I think there's a lot of stuff right now that's being set up, for offline. If you paid attention to like the Tekken announcement recently, like, was it Bronson and Rib? They were supposed to have an exhibition, but Bronson said, "Never mind. I'm gonna send Andy." They're going back. They're going back and forth on like Skype or some shit. It's fucking. But the way they cut it is funny, right? Stuff like that, I think, is when we go back to offline. I think could be bigger. The problem is also like you don't want it to be too manufactured, if that makes sense. And you want it to be organic is the thing. That I think is the tough part because it's
True.
when you try to force it too much. And this is something that I think is with a lot of the new generation people that I sense, and I'm kind of like I can be put off by is when people try to force it too much. You know what I mean? It's one thing if it's natural, if it's organic, if it comes together. I don't respect your play style. You don't respect mine. Fuck you, that kind of thing. But when it's performative, you know what I mean? And if it's performative and you can't sell it, that's also a thing that I want to avoid too. Which is one reason I just want people to organically just be, be driven and want to be the best and want to play and want to impose their will on the game like that. I think that's the best thing you can hope for that.
I wonder if for the FGC if it would, because you said once we go back to being offline, I wonder if the FGC took the mentality of instead of being like, well, when we get back to offline we'll do this, and this, and instead being like, well, let's move it online, because with this pandemic we have everything going on, we don't even know how long we're going to be like this, even with
that's part of the problem right now, right? Everybody's trying to dictate the time. Everybody's trying to tell a virus like we're going to do this. You can't tell that virus what the fucking do. The virus dictates the timeline. What the fuck are you talking about? You're like, we're gonna open schools. You're gonna get blown the fuck back is what you're gonna get. That's true. I think just one thing is just with the way our ecosystem is right now, it can be really difficult to, I think, create. And you know what? I take that back, dude. I think recently, the community has been a lot better about making content. Maybe not even necessarily based on online stuff, but just based around the games. I think there's been a really big drive, specifically in the past 1.5 to 2 years, on creating a bigger media presence. There's more people streaming. There's more people making YouTube stuff. There's some people, I feel ways about the stupid ass TikToks I see, but shit, God bless the people who are making that shit.
Yeah.
But the point is they're trying something, right? The
Right.
TikTok chick was whack as fuck, by the way. But they're trying something, whatever. That's important. The fact that they're at least making an effort to try to put stuff out there, get people on all levels too. Whether we're talking about the competitive aspect, or we're talking about just person-to-person interactions in the game, or we're talking about just joking about the games or whatever. It's there. It's content is content. It sounds like a Hollywood director saying that or whatever, but it's true. Part of how games like Smash got so big, like, dude, you ever just look at this shit? Part of the reason why some of these games got as big as they were is because people took ownership of that shit and said, you know what? I don't see anybody else making shit for this game. I'm going to make something for it. Fighting game people, it's not that we don't have those people. It's just kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just the way our scene has been for a while where I think people are a little bit too, maybe they have unrealistic expectations of results, or they're too result oriented, right? They feel like if I'm not Maximilian, who's gonna watch my video? Or if I'm not a top player, who gives a fuck about my opinion? But my thing is, no, your experience, that's your experience with fighting games up to now is your experience. Talk on it, share it. No matter who you are.
What's interesting is that mentality of like, oh, if I'm not Maximilian or if I'm not this person. Oddly enough, I've seen more, or not oddly enough, but like, I don't even know what adjective there, but I've seen it mostly in the FGC. Interestingly enough, and that's to me is interesting because that's the FGC is the scene that also argues just pick up a controller and play.
Yeah, right. Isn't it like
Yeah.
isn't that kind of like hypocritical? Yeah,
Yeah.
just pick up the controller and play, but at the same time, don't talk about them because nobody cares about you if you're not
Right,
know,
like don't no, like
You know,
I'm not going to stream because if I'm not like Tokido or anything, they don't even watch me. I'm not even that good, and I'm like, weren't you just arguing with me to like get the controller when I was telling you the same shit of like I don't know, I can't play, I'm too embarrassed. They'd be like, no, just pick up a controller.
Yeah, I mean, it goes both ways, right?
Yeah, I. The other thing too is that in I would say in like a very general sense, the FGC is behind when it comes to like
Is that even up for debate? Of course, yeah, hell yeah, they are.
yeah. But I mean looking also at the content side of things of like think of the type of contents that are like that's been made for like Fortnite. They have like 3D models already made out that are out of the game. They're no longer even using in-game stuff. They'll use models that they've made that people have made themselves. Like imagine if somebody from the Street Fighter community did that. Like they made their own memes and stuff like that using just the models that they have and they're able to pull from instead of just doing the same here's a highlight of like me doing this crazy combo or here's some type of commentary with it. Like there's a lot of similar there's a lot of similar content for FGC. And I think like it needs to be pushed. It should be pushed because there's a lot of like we've been saying there's a lot of interesting factors in the FGC that make it what it is, and it's the people.
And to that point, I think there's a lot of people who have made some really, really big gains in that regard in the past 1 to 2 years. There's definitely some people that really, really came up and you could tell took it very seriously, in terms of delivering whatever it is they wanted to make. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. I definitely felt better about it in 2019. COVID, you can definitely see a lot more people taking that seriously, especially people that were signed to orgs or that, now they can't depend on going to an event to represent their brand, right? So now they have to find some way to make it work in the meantime. Yeah, so now they want to stream more seriously. Now you want to cut YouTube content a little bit more seriously. Overall, there's been more. It's been positive, I think, but for sure, yeah, we're late on it for sure. That's not up for debate. And yeah, I think there needs to be more of it. There needs to be more different kinds of it too.
Yeah, DJ. Y'all saw good old
Zip popped up.
Right? Twitch chat.
Oh yeah, our missing co-host is here in the chat.
I was gonna say in addition to like it's also it might sound like a weakness, but I would almost say it's like a strength for the FGC of them kind of being a little behind is that because you can see what other games have done, so you can kind of use them as examples. At the same time, you can also there's so much open doorway. There's so many doorways for people to be like, well, they're doing this in Valorant, in Counter-Strike. Yeah. What if we do that here in FGC? Like we're doing that kind of content. What if we take that here? So and see if it works.
Well, the other thing with that is I think the potential to create that kind of stuff also depends on what developers do with their games too, right? So
true.
A lot of that I think depends on how developers want to approach features and packages with the games, because as that becomes more robust, the diversity of content and the accessibility of being able to make stuff with the game broadens as well, right? So yeah, like it's kind of a damned catch-22 situation, but for sure I think we've definitely made some decent improvement, decent growth. You can see a lot more people taking the drive to make stuff a little bit more seriously, which in this era, in this age, in 2020, is a big deal, because it's something that outside of Maximilian avoiding the puddle and like a few other people, it should have been a thing, but it hasn't really to that degree,
Yeah.
To the degree that it should be at, I think. Especially for games with as much legacy and that are as old as these, there's so much that should be out there that really isn't. when you
For
think
the
about
amount of times that people get high and be like, "What if we did this?" You would think there'd be a lot of innovation in gaming.
it. Yeah. But again, I think it comes back to like, I'm not gonna get Maximilian numbers, or I'm not gonna do. I think maybe you want some kind of positive reinforcement, right? Whenever you
Yeah.
make something, whenever you do something, but I think people are a little bit too micro focused on this has to get 100,000 views on YouTube, and it has to get
Yeah.
like. Sometimes it's good enough just to make something. The
Yeah.
people that and just let it just organically just do it. It feels bad to just grind for no. You feel like you're grinding for no reason if you're not getting the positive reinforcement. But you
You mean
can't
like
look
playing a
at.
fighting game?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's kind of same. Well, I mean, shit. Yeah, it is the same, I guess.
Yeah.
It's
It's like playing. It's like
over and over.
you're just getting your ass beat over and over. No one's watching you, and you're just be like, all right, well, eventually you go to Evo and you kind of make it, or you don't. You just keep doing it.
Yeah, you stick with it.
Yeah, it is.
You,
I
the
think
time and effort
overall,
you
like,
put in consistency is important as well. It's like if you put out content consistently,
yeah,
and have a way to separate yourself from others, do your own thing in a unique way. I mean, yeah, you won't have viewers in the beginning right now, but I've seen more and more people are starting to at least
The way
build.
you have to think about it is not everybody who starts out that way makes it, but the people who make it, the people who did make it or whatever, right?
started out
They
that way.
started out that way just the same.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
when it comes to trying to expand the media presence and I guess like the viewership potential of our games and stuff like that, especially from 2010 to 2020, just the way the internet has grown, the way media has grown on the internet. Yeah, it's become increasingly important, and I'm glad that the community. I'm sad. It sucks that it took a pandemic or whatever, but it's good that the community, at least on some level now, is definitely taking it a little bit more seriously and starting. You're definitely seeing a lot more people trying stuff, and that's good to see. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of the TikToks. They haven't really been hitting for me, but they're trying shit, and that's more than I could say from a few years ago,
Yeah, I mean, people
So-
make it that way, so whatever.
To touch on the summer update, it's been completely mixed like feelings on people. I see people saying that the man who saved Street Fighter is gone. I've seen other people say they're happy that it's gone. What's your opinion on Ono leaving?
I think there's sides to it. It depends. It's one of those things where like you as a player, if you played Street Fighter 4 and you liked it, and you play Street Fighter 5, you only know him as 3-2-1 Shoryuken guy or whatever. Yeah, you're gonna come away with like, yeah, well, he saved it. He saved it. I definitely know some people who got burned by him, and I definitely know some people who. There's multiple angles to that. Me personally, never anything personal to me. Street Fighter 4 was a big deal, straight up. That's maybe for these games the biggest deal, maybe I would think. And you got to give credit where that's due. The dude, he was in that company for 30 years. Did sound for like 10 or 12 of them, just like sound direction. He grinded and he got to where he got. Did he knock everything out the park? No, but he did some things really well, and you got to tip your hat off to him for that. As for the stuff that's happened since then, I have a lot of mixed feelings about Capcom. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think a lot of people, are really quick to be like, "Oh, you're just a hater. You're just a hater." I think to those people, I say go fuck yourself, because you straight up, you don't know the first thing about me. I'm a fanboy. The difference is some fans are willing to just gobble shit and be like, this shit tastes good. I'm not gonna lie to myself. No,
You're a true fan when you're actually able to call it out.
Yeah, that's my thing. What kind of friend are you? Are you gonna, if I'm fucking up, are you gonna stand are you gonna be like, yo, you're fucking up? Or are you gonna be like, here, take another needle, stick it in your arm? What? Like, it's a value and perception issue to me. I'm just not the kind of person who's gonna do that. If you're fucking up, I'm gonna be like, yo, you're fucking up. as to where I stand on it, I wish him the best. It's going to be interesting for me to see where he goes from here. 30 years in that company. And if you had the height, if you were at the rank where he was, I don't know where you go laterally. If you're going to go laterally to another company or something like that, I don't know where he's going to end up. But, or if he just retires, if he just, is he done? But regardless of what's happened since 2010, let's say, or 2013 or whatever, yeah, he did some pretty cool stuff. He can definitely put right next to his name, you can definitely put some really big moments there, and for that, proper dues, proper respect. But there was also a lot of dumb shit that happened, and it's not all on him by any means. It's like you gotta imagine like company culture. I can't wait for like a few years from now when people can start like talking freely about the kind of stuff that's going on with some of those companies. Like, you gotta think, man. For me personally, I knew there was a problem when Seth Killian left that company. That to me was a huge red flag. I was like, hold on, this dude wanted to work for them all this time. He finally gets in there, and now he just leaves to make PS All-Star? I'm like, something's not right here. That's a red flag. What's really going on here? Obviously they're not going to people aren't going to get on camera and just like start bashing their former bosses and stuff like that, right? Like this is not how that works generally. But I'm curious to know more and more, and I'm glad that more people are kind of talking about their experiences about it, because I think that's interesting for me, especially with a company like Capcom, where they have the Capcom USA, Capcom JP dichotomy, and they're working together, but then they're competing, but they're working together. There's some like, you hear about miscommunication all the time, and it's just it's a lot. But regarding Ono, yeah, I wish him all the best. He did some crazy shit, man. Street Fighter 4, he set up for some crazy shit. You got to give props to him for that. There's definitely some crazy shit in a bad way that came after, no doubt. But I'm not a fan of keeping it, like he saved Street Fighter, he saved the genre, that was it. Like, nah, there was definitely some fucked up shit that came after. But I'm not a fan of going all in on one or the other. You got to be real with it, to me.
Yeah.
Matt, he had his moments for sure. Good and bad. But
Quick
yeah,
side note,
30 years at a company? You're not crazy?
That's
I'm 32.
nutty.
Imagine if your whole life you worked for one company. For my existence, if I were... Like, isn't that crazy to think about? This dude worked at a game company for 30 years.
That is.
Yeah,
I mean, anybody.
It's only like, 3 years shy of being there since the day of Street Fighter? Huh?
DJ, how old are you?
I am
He's the
25.
youngest.
25. He's not even 30. He's not even 30.
Yeah, I'm
Imagine
20.
his entire life.
Dude, been in Capcom before I was born.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, I tell you what, it's only like 1 or 2 years short of him being in Capcom since the birth of Street Fighter.
Yeah, it's about that time.
He's been there since Street Fighter 1.
Yeah, or for sure Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
That's
When
that's crazy to think about.
Quick side note: our normal co-host Zipmaster Flex, who would be here, but he says he didn't know. Apparently, he does a lot of. He's a commentator. He does mostly KI commentation, but he said he wanted us to let you know that you are his favorite commentator.
I'm greatly appreciative of that praise. Thank you. Out here, just I guess I don't want to say I've slowed down recently, but I've been more focused, I think, on just other production stuff. But for sure, appreciate it. Yeah. Maybe we'll see. Maybe next year. Maybe when events come back, we'll see. I don't know.
See, like when I watch you commentate anime games, I feel like you like bring the hype to it, and so that's what he does too. He's like the hype man of commentating for KI. Loud as hell. I wish he would have been here since the beginning, man.
Well, you bring a lot of passion. You bring a lot of passion to. I feel like to
that's
commentary
kind
too.
of you to say.
Like, it comes
to
out.
Be honest with you,
Yeah.
To be honest with you, a lot of it's just because if you're out here and you play the games, you talk with people, it's it's pretty organic. Obviously, like shit. Especially if you're a player, dude, you get invested in the matches just like they do. You know.
Well, I feel like you bring a lot of passion, but not just in the middle of the match talking about the match going on. I feel like you bring a lot of passion to those games in general. Like I've seen you go on like things when people were like, "Oh, this might have been like a year ago," but when people were like, "Oh, fuck Skullgirls and stuff like that," you were like, "Why? What? This game's great. It offers this, this, and this." Like the way you defend when like people try to shit on them and like call them smaller games and stuff. I feel like the way you defend those games, like not only are you way more knowledgeable on those games than majority of people who can actually try to give them any negative feedback, but like I like the way you come to like defend them and like actually spit facts back and be like, "Why is it bad?" And then you're like, "Well, it's got this and it's got this, it's got this, it's got this." Like, where are you going with that? I think that's something one of the dope things. But I guess that doesn't really have to do with you commentating. No, it's just your personality and how you feel about the games in general.
To me, man, it's just about like ignorance. You hear a lot of people just talk out their ass all the time, or like they'll just say this about this thing. Like, do you know so before you even like really get into it, do you know the first thing about what you're talking about? Just like quick fact check real quick. Do you know anything about this game? Oh no. Well, yeah, okay, well then shut the fuck up, dude. What are you talking about? Stick to what you know, man. Avatar: The Last Airbender and Ben 10 fan fiction, whatever. Stick to that shit. Leave talking about the games that people actually know about them. How about that? But like that's the thing, man. There's Goombas with Goomba ass opinions. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You just gotta tell these motherfuckers just shut the fuck up on the spot, dude. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's just how I feel about it, But
yeah, that's fair. What's been? I'm trying to figure out how to word this question. So, I guess because I'm hearing Dylan and DJ kind of compliment you, and also Zip complimenting your work. In that regard, when someone's I guess let me ask this person, then I'll have a follow up. Do you notice the effect you have on others, like the positive effect that you bring to the table?
Ouch. I don't know how to answer that. I never really thought about it, to be honest with you. I don't know. Because to me, a lot of I told you, like the way it starts is a lot of the stuff that I've done, I did it because it was something that either I wanted to see, or that I wanted to happen. So I was like, I'm tired. I hit a point, especially recently, where I got tired of waiting. I got tired of waiting for companies or other people to give me the shit that I want. So fuck it. I'll do it. If I want it, if I want to see it, or if I want it to happen, fuck you. I'll do it.
Yeah.
That's honestly the way it started off for me for a lot of stuff. So
yeah.
That effect, I don't know, man, dude. I don't really think about myself in those terms, dude. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, some people are like, I'm a professional commentator or something like that. I just like to play the game. Like I real simple. I really just like to play fighting games. Probably more than is healthy, but to admit, right? But that's really just what it is. I never really thought about it in terms of that. To be honest, I'm not sure.
So the follow up I wanted to ask then with that is that, has anyone said something to you in a way that you're like, I didn't know I even did that?
Yeah, but that's a real life thing too, right? You never know. Like, how often do you hear people like, you say something nice to somebody, or something like that, and then somebody comes back years later, you don't know what people are going through at certain times, right? Or like what something means, what this interaction means to this person or something like that. And then it comes back years later, you're like, oh wow, you really like that really affected you that way? That's a real life thing too, right? I can tell you, like, from some jobs I worked, where I was contacted years later, they were like, oh yeah, you were my favorite person to work with or something like that. I was like, I don't remember you being hyped like that, at that time. Like, okay, I guess. But yeah, you don't. I guess that's something you can't really. I don't know, man. I never really think about it, but yeah, that's a real life thing where the actions that you know, the things that you do, your actions, they can affect other people. You never really know how it will unless they tell you or something like that.
Yeah.
You don't know what people are going through, Maybe that compliment that you gave that lady at the store or something like that. Maybe she was going through some fucked up shit at home, and that comment made her feel good. I don't know. Uh, I never really thought about that. Uh, do people say stuff like that occasionally? Yeah, that's because all right. So we were talking about this recently. So you know what I don't like is for me what I can't fuck with is when people are like, I want to thank my fans. I don't have fans. Like y'all just like you're either a viewer or you just fuck with me or whatever, right? But a fan, like a fan? I don't. Come on, man. Like I play fighting. I don't have a fucking fan, dude. What are you talking about?
But you
Just-
do.
You really look at it that way. You really
No,
don't feel like you're a fan.
I get what you mean,
Yeah.
but like the
Yeah.
way I look at it, I will never look down on you and be like, yo, you're a
Oh,
fan.
okay, that's what-
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was like, you definitely got fans, and you got people that
Yeah.
ride for you. I've been in your stream before. Like a lot of your regulars, like they ride for you.
So when people will like say something to me at an event or something like that, yeah, it makes you feel good because I never did it with the expectation of that or anything like that, right? So yeah, it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
But I just part of it is just I just don't think about myself that way, and I don't see other players that way. I guess is what I'm saying, But yeah, it does happen. That's a good feeling, Not gonna lie, yeah, it feels good to know that what you make or what you organize or what you create makes other people feel some kind of way, that's part of what's fun, the creation process is very fun because you get to watch something from your imagination take shape, right? The level 2 to that is when that creation influences someone else's creation or action or something like that, right? And that level 2 is usually that never gets back to you. You don't know about it, right? So when people tell you about it, you're like, oh wow, okay, it's a gratifying feeling for sure.
You feel like definitely in the States, your state you come from and like the scene you were brought up in plays effect because like I feel like so overall I feel like the Louisiana FGC specifically, a lot of us like have like the same mindset, and like we were always really tight knit. Like rest in peace, B. But it's like Alex. I don't know if you know Symphony or not. I don't know if you've met him in person, but like so he gave when he gave a speech at B's wedding. One of the things he said it was like B was one of the people like when we would travel places he was like, at the end of the day, when we're at events, it's us first. It's Louisiana first. We take care of each other. We're family. And like I'm cause I almost moved to Michigan a couple years ago, so I like joined the Michigan pages and stuff like that. And like you see the way the different like actual state scenes are, and I feel like I honestly think that for the most part, like we are more like we're all more similar to each other up in the LAFGC, and we really like emphasize on like having each other's backs and being there for each other, or at least definitely did at one point. Things might be a little different now. Our scene's been a little shaken and broken up lately, but but overall, do you feel like what state you come from in your scene changes the way you are at events?
I would say what it did for me was it changed my perception on what the scene or what my like when I say the scene, right? My scene isn't necessarily your scene, right? Or something like that. The way it affected me was it changed my perception on what our community could be and should be. And I take that to whatever I do. I'll also say like I'm definitely not sensitive because like easily mentally shaken because people are talking shit or something like that. You see like we talked about earlier, right? There's a lot of like socially awkward people. Somebody's yelling in the background. The monkey yell or some shit in the crowd. They get like they get all spooked and shit. That isn't really a thing, I think, for me, because of where we're from, right?
Yeah, we're used to it. We go to our locals and weeklies, and we just shit talk each other, and then at the end of the night, we get drunk, laugh, and
yeah,
like it's all fun and games.
You learn to just brush shit like that off, or just ignore it, right? Or ride with it when it's in your favor. Not a lot of, and I guess that you take that for granted. To be honest with you, there's definitely people who cannot do that. But for me, like I said, what it was about was certain values that I take to whether I'm running an event, whether I'm playing in something, whatever, and whether I'm organizing something, whatever I'm doing. It's about we come together, have a good time, play, improve, get better at this game, whatever you're about, whether it be about grinding to become the best or whatever. Take ownership of your scene and take care of each other. That kind of thing, and just fucking grind it out. Do whatever you want to do. Just do that kind of mentality, that kind of mindset. Nobody's too good either. I'm not too good to play with you. You're not too good to play with me. Nothing like that. Those kinds of values and those kinds of mindsets that a lot of the older heads imparted on me, I definitely take with me, and I maybe in some ways directly, but in other ways in my own way, I impose that on whatever I do. It definitely played a role for sure. It's not even close. A lot of the older heads in that community, Louisiana, people don't know, man. It's kind of swept under the rug, but a lot of really, really talented and really successful fighting game players have come out of Louisiana at some point or another. It's actually pretty interesting if you really go back and you start looking. But
so, like in your era, I mean, you got you, Toy, Jacob, Boo, like your era. We had
you're not even talking about like Chris Creasy. There's a long list of players. Actually, you'd be very surprised. I think if you actually did. Yeah, Croissant was a piece.
Oh yeah, and then, I mean, Christian in Third Strike. Like I've actually watched Japanese tournaments, like old versions, like reruns of Third Strike tournaments, and like Christian, even being in Louisiana, was like a respected name in Japan for Third Strike, and I feel Christian was a monster. And then one thing cool with that is like Chance, it tells everybody he was like, I learned how to play Third Strike from the best player from my scene. Like Christian took Chance and was like, I want to teach you. And then and now in our era, I mean, like, so because I mean, me and DJ are a little younger than like you and Toy and Boo and everything, but that when we started Crescent, that was the original goal. That was like the reason our whole original lineup was all from Louisiana. One of the things when we started, it was to give the players that we knew had a serious amount of talent in Louisiana, but didn't have the ability to travel and showcase it. That's the reason we started off with Nova Spec. Yeah.
Because naturally, of course, being from Louisiana, Gulf Coast, like I said, typically the way this works, right, is if you're not from New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco, nobody gives a fuck about you. That's North American fighting games. You're right, like you're already behind the eight ball. If you're from Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, and the whole point is there's people here that can fucking play, right? And that shit sucks. It shit sucks when you're left out of every conversation, when despite having very fucking talented players who on multiple occasions have beaten the shit out of people, that shit fucking sucks. So yeah, so for you guys to start something that was designed and especially started out as giving those guys a support network and giving those guys the opportunity to be able to go out there and showcase like that, that's very valuable, I think, for a local community, no doubt.
That's the reason we finally had gotten Toy, because I mean, like, it made sense to have Toy from day one. I just never had the opportunity to get him. So as soon as I had the opportunity to get Toy was like, well, shit, this should have happened a long time ago. Like, it only makes sense, because like I think our first player was Doza, and this wasn't too long after Doza had his little rise up beating Dogura at final round in Central Fiction, and then I think it was Novaspec, then it was DJ, then it was Alex. You know, it wasn't until like last year that we started transitioning to picking up these players from out of state like Rob, and and then getting Doc. I mean, Toys in Texas now, but I mean, I still consider that a Louisiana pickup in my, you know.
And I think especially right now, even though it's kind of tough, you know, the big thing is, y'all should be. I'm trying to see y'all cutting shit, pushing that content push. That's a big deal now. So I have high expectations. Y'all made some pretty decent pickups.
That's been Rob. I will say, definitely with the pandemic, Rob
that's his origin, right? Like that's it. That's where he comes from.
I think he just fell off of it. There was a certain point where Rob wanted to focus on more of like being the best player he could be, so he kind of let it like in the shadows for a little bit. But man, the pandemic, Rob's been on fire lately. But another good person I think that's going to be doing a lot of that is Doc. Toy. I mean, the whole social media thing. That's not Toy's thing. Toy's thing is I'm gonna do it in person. You're gonna see my personality and my wildness in person. But and I mean, then another person we just picked up for a content creator was still competing. Peach Hand. I mean, Peach Hand's pretty active with the content.
Yeah.
I'd like for us to do more like in Louisiana, like with me, Alex, DJ, and Doza.
Yeah,
but you know,
one thing I was really sad from the pandemic is just like we had a lot of stuff planned that we were just gonna try to film stuff at events and things like that. And then,
dude, I had a bulletin board ready to go with plans that COVID just shit all over.
I will say the next one is a food related one. One of our guys has been barbecuing like every weekend, so we're gonna so
no,
he's
but
been barbecuing. Yeah,
that's just great.
We're gonna.
That'd be sick.
He lives over here with me in California, so I'm probably gonna go with him, and we're gonna make something out of it. We're still on the board,
Crescent
but
cookout season.
making. Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Fuck. I want to like having like this kind of content, this type of this type of content that highlights, like right now we're highlighting John, but it highlights you guys too. It highlights the FGC. This is the kind of stuff that highlights the people that we don't see on stage, or we don't see like it's not the gameplay. These are the people. These are you guys who have been here and doing this. And then I think to me like we've been saying, you guys make the FGC.
You know, like what a good idea for that kind of stuff would be like you were saying, barbecue and casuals and just like videotape it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like old school.
Something that we were
video camera.
We were thinking about that.
And then it was just
if I was over there right now, that's the kind of shit I'd be cutting. Just like invite 6 people over, y'all barbecue, but like have games going on in the background, and just videotape.
Well, so part of that idea was supposed to be Slam this year. We were going to try to get Carlos out from Atlanta and Rob out from Ohio, and we were going to try to like get everybody to come down here for Slam. And instead of us just going to Slam, add a couple extra days to it, all of us get together, and we were basically that's what we were going to do. And we were just going to let that rock around the time of Slam, but then Slam got canceled. But it was a good way for us to get like the guys who aren't from Louisiana out here to still be able to compete, but still have them here to do content with them in general.
Hoping we can get to do more and get not even just the Crescent name, but honestly the goal is to better the esports infrastructure, because it's real shitty right now. We've been talking about like the FGC and how it needs to like grow, but the esports infrastructure in total, it's not self-sustaining by any means.
That has been a conversation point for a while now, right? Especially the way like some trajectories and focuses have changed, right? You see a lot more orgs, I think, going for like player influencer hybrids as opposed to just raw players. It's a changing landscape for sure.
Yeah,
and you have to imagine like put through the lens of this year, that definitely changes. Influencers have 100%. All the power right now.
Yeah, 100%. I think I don't know where that thought was going to go. Never mind.
Well, so I just realized that we've done it, yet again, we are approaching
Yeah, we're
the
at like
3-hour mark.
Yeah.
So
There,
2
it's
hours.
because there's a lot to
45
talk
minutes.
about, man. It just
we
goes.
really,
man.
when we get in a conversation like this, we really do. The time just like slips right by us, and we just keep running it. But
Yeah, 'cause
Jez,
you're all like fucking locked up in our homes, and you just like
Yeah.
start
yeah.
you start just shooting shit,
Just
and then you
letting
just
out
like,
shit.
oh well, that was 4 hours.
I've always wanted to ask this for like, and I kind of want to ask this for like for other viewers too. It's kind of like a feedback question for what we've been doing, but I guess like with stuff like this, because you mentioned earlier in the conversation, John, of wanting to see more of this type of content. Like with stuff like this, what do you think would be better? What do you think we could add on to it that would make it more either interesting or something that can highlight even better things?
What do you mean, like this stream?
You want to?
No.
Us talk about this after?
We could, but I mean, I figured just be interesting to kind of hear the point. But
Nothing in particular. Maybe like no, I don't really have any like nothing specific like
Yeah.
that. You know, for this kind of thing, it's just like kind of just we just sit around, we just talk, we just shoot the shit, right? Talk about hot topics and stuff. I would say like the I think a problem is like if you want like for this to be uploaded on YouTube, it always looks really intimidating whenever you have like a 4-hour upload or something like that.
Yeah, because we do port it straight over to YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to cut that down. That can't like it long form content like that. If it's focused, that works. But it's difficult for like a 4-hour archive of just 4 dudes on Discord talking shit the whole time. It's difficult for people, I think, to be motivated to like watch or listen to the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So you have to either target it a little bit more or shorten it. Is the thing, I think. But for this kind of thing, that's fine. I think like you having more focus on those things, like because y'all have, like you said earlier, you guys have players who have very animated personalities, are charismatic. So getting them to do stuff where you can capture that in this environment, I think is more meaningful and probably has higher gain potential for you guys. You know, like Rob and Toy playing fucking, I don't know, like Fall Guys or some shit like that. Quick 5-minute video, like, but something like that is that like something like that would be
really funny.
I've been wanting to do that since I downloaded Fall Guys.
I've been wanting to fucking play Pummel Party with everybody, dude. What?
We got
but
we want to stick
like
around
stuff
for a
like
minute.
that, like get Doza, Rob, like 4 of y'all, right? 4 of y'all get in a party and y'all play like Worms Armageddon or some shit like that.
I'm about to
edit together all the funny
cut that into a 5 to 8 minute highlight video. Like shit like that is good. It doesn't necessarily have to be fighting games, is the thing.
Yeah.
That's true.
John, if you want to stick around for a minute, we're gonna go ahead and cut this. But so thank everybody for tuning in. John, absolutely thank you for coming through. It was
thanks for having me on, y'all. Y'all out there, I see y'all.
it.
I see y'all.
Do you want to plug anything for yourself?
Oh yeah. If you want to plug anything, do you think?
Nah, man. Just shit. If y'all are about this, yeah, keep supporting them, and yeah, everybody out there, just stay safe, be cool. I'm good.
Happy Crescents.
See y'all next Sunday for episode 8.
All right, y'all.